Hey everyone, this is What If Fan bringing you another part of What If Luffy Became a Marine. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Please make sure to support the creator. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, a quick update, the story What If There Was a Different Luffy is going on hold soon, as we have almost caught up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be on this channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Reborn as Gohan in future timeline? I will be setting up a poll for this, so please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next on the channel. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 31, Unfamiliar Familiarities. Mary's sail lurched as it caught a tailwind, steadily sailing along the sea while pulling the ark behind it. On the deck, Nami had her sea chart out, taking notes on their course as Robin watched on beside her. Sanji pirouetted out of the kitchen, a tray of snacks balanced on his hand. With the grace of a flamingo performing its mating dance, the chef skipped along the deck towards the two ladies, presenting the tray with an exaggerated bow. "May I interest the beautiful ladies in a snack?" Nami picked up the plate without looking away from her charts, mumbling a soft word of thanks at the chef. Sanji ran a hand through his hair with a flourish. "To be thanked by such angels, truly it is my pride as a chef." "What an idiot," Zoro groaned, shaking his head at the chef's idiocy. "Shishishi, come on Zoro, don't stop now." Luffy laughed, the rear admiral standing near the prow with his arms crossed. The swordsman grinned as he tightened his grip on his sword, rushing forward to slash at his superior. Just as the sword came near Luffy's chest, the youth dematerialized his upper half into lightning, allowing the sword to pass harmlessly through him. Usopp watched the two spar while seated beside the mast, staying still as Chopper applied some medication to his temple. The sniper gave a startled yelp as Chopper touched one of his bruises, clutching his head in pain. "Sorry Usopp. I did tell you it will sting." Chopper apologized. "Ah. It's not your fault Chopper, it's Nami who hit me too hard." Usopp glanced pointedly at the accused. The navigator snorted at his accusation. "Didn't Sander Sonia say so herself? If I didn't mean to hit you, you wouldn't learn." "Yeah. But couldn't you soften your blows a bit?" Usopp protested. "Then just learn to avoid them," Nami smirked devilishly. "Nami's right," Luffy injected, turning his head into lightning to avoid another of Zoro's strikes. "Gramps used to tell me there is no easy way in the road to becoming stronger." Usopp shuddered as he watched Luffy practice his lightning transformation, trying to get himself able to transform into lightning instinctively with Zoro's help. For the first few tries, Luffy had habitually used Tekai or armament to defend against Zoro's slashes, which still resulted in a few painful bruises here and there where they struck. It unnerved the sharpshooter to even think about what would happen if Zoro managed to hit Luffy when he was not prepared to receive it. Zoro slashed once more from his right, aiming for a diagonal slash upwards along Luffy's torso. A resounding clang echoed when the rear admiral tensed his body, deflecting Zoro's sword away with his Tekai. "Aw crap. I was doing so well too." Luffy groaned, releasing the unintentional Rokushiki technique. "I'm still not used to it yet." "You'll get it, that Ikiji guy did say it might take a while before it becomes instinctual," Zoro comforted, tapping his sword on his shoulder with a grin. Just as Zoro got ready to strike once more, Luffy raised his hand to stop him, his head flicking to the side. The rear admiral rushed to the side, leaning as far as he could against the ship's railings. A distance away from the ship, Luffy spots the thing his observation haki had picked up, a giant frog swimming in freestyle. "Hey guys! Look! It's a frog that's swimming in freestyle." "Don't be ridiculous," Usopp huffed. "There's no frog that swims in freestyle, Luffy." Luffy frowned, placing a hand on his hip while pointing at the frog indignantly. "Then what style is that?" The rest of the Straw Hats gathered behind Luffy, all of them looking over his shoulder to see a giant frog swimming in freestyle. "Oh, it's really swimming in freestyle," Robin said with a small smile. "Why the hell is it swimming in freestyle?" Zoro questioned. "A frog swimming in freestyle. Usopp muttered. Where's it going? It looks like it's in a hurry. Chopper noted. First you soak the frog in white wine, then coat it with flour and fry it. Sanji thought aloud. Let's follow it. Luffy commanded, jumping on top of Mary's figurehead. What? No. We need to stick to the log pose. Nami protested. We can do that later. Let's see where it's going. There might be some hidden treasure or something. Nami immediately ran for the wheel, her eyes already in the shape of berry symbols. Turn the rudder. Follow that frog. The rest of the crew scurried to obey, collectively deciding it was easier to just go along with it. Luffy. Mary can't catch up to it while pulling the arc, you know? Usopp warned, pulling at the ropes to secure the sail. Luffy leapt off the figurehead, his marine cloak fluttering in the wind. Get out the oars. Let's start rowing. Don't be ridiculous. The frog's not worth it. The sniper yelled back. Yes it is. Nami slammed a fist on the railing. There might be gold ahead. Listen to your commander. What a way to get her on your side, Luffy. Zoro mumbled, already deploying the ship's oars into the water. Row. Row. Faster. It's getting further away. The rear admiral yelled from the prow. I don't see you helping. Sanji protested, rowing one of the oars beside Zoro while Usopp and Chopper rowed on the other side. There's a lighthouse ahead, Miss Navigator. And the frog is swimming straight to it, Robin announced, lowering her binoculars. Nami's eyes changed back into berry symbols. Is there gold on it? The archaeologist just shrugged with a smile. Not any that I can see. Nami's face immediately fell in disappointment. Before she could decide to change the ship's course again, a loud whistling sound was heard. Hey, you guys hear that? Sanji asked. It's coming from the lighthouse. Chopper pointed at a column of smoke that was making its way past said lighthouse. Usopp stepped up to the prow beside Luffy, adjusting his goggles. The frog stopped in front of it. What's it doing? The whistling sound is getting closer. Zoro warned. There's something coming. It's heading right for the frog. Look out. Chopper yelled out in alarm as the train chugged straight towards the stationary frog. The Straw Hats watched in horror as the frog refused to move. Instead, it raised both its arms as though in an attempt to stop it. Needless to say, the train rammed straight into it, shoving the frog off the track and into the water. What the hell is that thing? Nami yelled in disbelief. Oh. That's the sea train. Luffy exclaimed, his hands waving around in excitement. I didn't know it passes through here. Sea? Train? The rest of the crew tilted their heads. Yeah. It's a mystery train. Everyone sighed, realizing it was futile to expect a straight answer from their rear admiral. Hey Granny. Look. Look. Marines are here. A shrill voice shouted from the lighthouse. The Straw Hats turned to see a little girl with green hair tied in pigtails waving to someone inside the house. A large framed woman with similar hair color as the girl appeared at the doorway. Huh? Burp. Marines? What are they doing here? Burp. Oh. There's people living in this small place? Nami wondered. Robin took note of the lighthouse. The place looks well maintained after all. The large woman collapsed on the floor. Burp. Marines. Air. What's going on again? My head hurts. You're way too drunk. The Straw Hats yelled with shark-like teeth. Oh? Ya youngsters are the Straw Hat Marines? Wasn't it ya who put down the warlord or something? Nagagagaga. The woman laughed. After having Chopper prescribe her some headache pills, the woman thanked the Marines and introduced herself as Kokoro, the conductor of the station, and the little girl as her granddaughter. The little girl, Chimney, gestured to their pet. Oh, I almost forgot. This is Gandhi, our cat. The Straw Hats refrained from pointing out the cat was in fact a rabbit to the girl. Miss Kokoro, so what was that sea train that passed by? Is that not a ship? Nami asked. Eh? Yeah, youngsters don't know about the sea train? It's a steam-powered car that moves on tracks. Nagagaga. Oh, it's true. There's tracks just underneath the surface of the water. Usopp exclaimed from the edge of the platform. So where are ya youngsters headed to? Kokoro said as she took another swig of her rum before wiping her mouth with the sleeve of her coat. The next train can take you to St. Poplar, Pucci, or San Faldo. Or are ya here for the government train? Luffy shook his head with a grin. We were just passing through. We need to get our ship fixed and another one scrapped. Nagagaga. In that case, y'all be heading to Water 7, just directly west of Air. That's where the best shipwrights in the world are found. Nami glanced down at the log pose. Ah. That's where our log pose is pointed to as well. Wow, it's like fate. Chimney laughed. Kokoro slapped her knee as she laughed. Nagagaga, this is the first time I heard Marines following a log pose. Are ya guys lost? Shishishi. Nope. It's our orders. Luffy grinned. Interesting. Tell ya what, I'll give ya a map and a letter of recommendation to the place. This should help you guys with getting better services. Look for a guy called Iceberg once you're there. You would do that? Awesome. Chopper cheered. It's no problem, we're planning on heading back to Water 7 soon too, so let me take all of you out for a drink sometime. I'll hold you to that offer, Zoro grinned. Take care now. We'll see you again real soon. Chimney waved them off with a smile. After thanking Kokoro for her map and letter, the Straw Hats set off from the station, sailing towards where their log post pointed. As the station became a small speck in the horizon, Luffy jumped on the deck suddenly. I have decided. We should get our own shipwright at our next stop. Sanji grinned. I agree, we should have someone experienced to fix the ship rather than an amateur after all. Well, sorry for being an amateur, Usopp frowned. Luffy took out a drawing pad from nowhere and began sketching. We need to get a really big guy. At least 5 meters tall. No way, Zoro shook his head. There wouldn't be any space on the ship for someone that size. Ignoring his first mate's protest, Luffy proudly showed off his drawing of a disfigured man that had what can only be described as tentacles for both his arms and legs and a face that could only exist in nightmares. We need to find someone like that. Luffy. Usopp gulped. If I saw anyone that looked like that, I would be running in the opposite direction. Oh come now, any decent shipwright will do, Nami sighed. No. He has to be awesome enough. Luffy pouted. Sanji rolled his eyes. In your case, it would mean just about anyone would do, wouldn't it? Absolutely not. Luffy crossed his arms. Zoro's an awesome swordsman, Nami's an awesome navigator, Usopp's an awesome sniper, you're an awesome chef, Chopper's an awesome doctor and Robin's an awesome archaeologist. The shipwright must be just as awesome as you guys. The Rear Admiral's words brought a collective smile on their faces, feeling their hearts warming from his praise. I guess we'll need to make our ship much bigger to fit the new crew, Robin said with a smile. Nami shrugged, we can afford it. Speaking of which, let's take a look at Kokoro's map. The navigator unfurled the map she was given, only to see it was a preschooler sketch of a mountain with a railroad track leading to it with the words Water 7 here written haphazardly at the top. It's a completely useless drawing. Nami yelled, shredding the paper with her hands. Well, no need to worry about it, Nami. I think I see Water 7 right ahead, Usopp announced from the prow. The crew gathered to witness the magnificent metropolis that lay before them. The city itself resembled a giant fountain with each city district occupying its tiers with giant canals allowing the water to flow from the top of the fountain into the sea unfettered. Magnificent. Robin could not help but marvel at its design. The other Straw Hats could only agree, never had they dreamed to behold a sight such as this in their lives. Their awe only increased the closer they got to the city, sailing towards one of the city's entrances in between two giant canals. Look! Chopper pointed at a building at the edge of the city. It says Blue Station there. Maybe that's where the train stops? But where would the docks be? Sanji wondered. Spotting a fisherman by the side, Nami waved at him to get his attention. Hey! Do you know where we can dock our ships? The fisherman smiled and pointed towards the entrance with a finger. You'll be wanting the government docks straight in. It's the only one with a marine outpost on it, can't miss it. The marine navigator waved back a thanks before steering the ship to the entrance, passing underneath the arches that led into the city. Sailing through rows of shophouses, the Straw Hats eventually came upon a large harbor with a mixture of government and marine ships docked. They noticed that the entrance to the harbor had two sturdy steel gates, thick enough to stop a battleship cannonball dead in its tracks. Anchoring at two empty spots next to each other, both ships were secured to the dock without incident. Luffy had his crew gathered on deck to decide their course of action. Two huge bags of gold rested beside Nami. Alright, we need to get the gold exchanged and the ark scrapped, Luffy said as he dug his ear with a finger. Nami raised a hand. I would like to suggest that Luffy, Usopp, and I be the ones to exchange it and find Iceberg. I don't mind looking for the scrappers, I need to do some grocery shopping too, Sanji commented. And Zoro can follow him to intimidate them, Usopp snickered. Zoro's eyes widened. Hey! Don't you dare! Luffy grinned. That sounds like a good idea. Alright. You two find us the best scrappers there is. Both the chef and swordsman glared at each other before turning their heads away. I need to replenish my medical supplies and buy new medical books. Chopper twirled his fingers, still slightly ashamed with himself for Luffy's close brush with death. I can follow our doctor for that, Robin volunteered. Then that's settled. We'll meet back here in time for dinner. Luffy announced with a grin on his face, already preparing to leave the ship. Welcome to Water 7, Rear Admiral Luffy. I am Captain Shiringuru, commander of this outpost. A marine wearing a pair of goggles and a distinctly pointed hat saluted as Luffy disembarked from the gangplank. Behind the captain, a contingent of marines were standing at attention, the outpost having been turned out by their commander when he had found out a rear admiral from headquarters was visiting. At ease, Captain, Luffy saluted back. We are just here to have our ships serviced. Would you and your men take care of our ships in the meantime while we look for the shipwrights? If you would like, sir, I can get my men to do the search for you. No need to trouble yourself over something as trivial as this, Shiringuru suggested. Luffy shook his head with a smile. Shishishi, it's alright. I want to explore the city too, just help us make sure our ships are secured, Captain. Shiringuru straightened after hearing the order. Worry not, Rear Admiral. No harm will come to your ship while I'm here. Nami stepped beside Luffy. Would you happen to know where the nearest exchange is? Shiringuru smiled apologetically. I apologize, Captain Nami, I am not that familiar with this city yet as I was only posted here a few days ago. However, the bull shop owner just outside the entrance would be able to guide you better. Bull shop? Nami tilted her head quizzically. You'll understand when you see it, the male captain laughed. Once more, I welcome all of you to Water 7. Giving the captain a pat on the shoulder, Luffy led his crew past the saluting contingent of marines, Zoro and Sanji bringing up the rear with a bag of gold each. Just outside the harbor, a shop with the sign Rental Bull Shop could be seen. What's a bull? Chopper asked. Spotting the sign. Something like a bulldog? Or maybe an actual male cow? Sanji scratched his chin with his free hand. Let's go find out. Luffy laughed, leading the way in. Upon entering the store, a large, bespectacled man wearing a floral print shirt greeted them from behind the counter as he put the newspaper in his hand down. Welcome, sirs and ladies, here to rent some bulls? How many of you are there? 7. Luffy yelled out confidently. If that's the case, how about 4 Yagura bulls? It will be 4,000 berries, the owner asked as he proceeded to pull out a few boat-shaped objects. Yeah. Make it extra crispy. Nami stepped forward once more before her rear admiral could make the situation more confusing. I'm sorry, but what are Yagura bulls? I thought you fine marines might know already. Is this your first time here in Water 7? The crew nodded collectively. Ah. My mistake then. See those boats out there? They are mounted on Yagura bulls. If you want to get around this city, a bull is your main form of transportation around the city's canals. I see, this city is designed with water in mind after all, Robin mused. So would 4 bulls be enough for you all? The owner asked once more. That would be fine, Nami answered. Zoro, Sanji, let Luffy take over the bags. Both men tossed the heavy bags which Luffy caught with a single hand each with no problems. Hey mister. The bulls won't have a problem carrying gold, right? Luffy asked. Ah, you're funny. But no, they are strong enough to carry you and those 2 bags you're carrying even if they were indeed filled with gold. The owner guided the straw hats while carrying the small boats over to the edge of the water. Well then, my bull pool is over here, you can pick any 4 you like. Luffy immediately ran up to the edge of the pool, leaning on the railings to look at the bulls swimming around in the enclosure. They look like horses. Luffy exclaimed. I see resemblance to a certain Marimo I know, Sanji smirked. Huh, I could have sworn their long face looked more like a certain arrow cook instead, Zoro huffed. What was that, you stupid brute? I'll cut you up, you perverted chef. Would you two just leave it? Nami yelled, putting a swift end to their argument with a chop to their heads. On the other hand, Luffy was laughing as a certain Yagura bull continuously licked his face, drenching the young marine in its drool. It likes you. The owner laughed, placing the last of the boats into the water. I'll give you that one. Excuse me, owner, would you happen to know where we can change valuables into money? Nami asked, more careful than Luffy about revealing. The bagfuls of gold. Ah, an exchange, right? I would recommend the Central Exchange at the city center, they're the biggest in the city. Here, I have a map for visitors that I can give you. The navigator thanked him once more as she received the map, returning back to her crew just as they finished picking out their own bulls. Soon, the Straw Hats split into their own boats respectively, Luffy being the only one to have a boat for himself with the 2 bags of gold behind him. Robin and Chopper headed towards the art district to look for their books while Zoro and Sanji rode off towards the workman's district, both of them cursing at each other all the way. Alright, all we need to do now is to head towards the city center. We would probably need to pass through the market district to get there, Nami said as she glanced at the map in her hands. Before the navigator could formulate a path on the map through the city's winding waterways, both Yagura bulls gave a snort and sped off towards a waterway with Luffy's leading the way. The marine navigator made a grab for the reins to pull the Yagura bull back, but it just ignored her as it continued swimming against the canal's current, Luffy laughing in delight all the way while Usopp just clung to the sides of the boat behind Nami. As suddenly as they had accelerated, the bulls came to an abrupt stop at the end of the waterway. Nami took a moment to inspect their surroundings, gasping in shock when she found that they had already reached the market district. They understood our destination? Nami gasped in wonder. They're so smart. Luffy laughed, petting his bull on the head, the bull nuzzling his hand affectionately in return. The trio were soon enveloped in the hustle and bustle of the market district, with store vendors shouting over one another to attract their customers while said customers bargained over the best prices and selection. Without any prompting, Luffy's bull sped off towards one of the stalls on its own accord, its mouth already watering at the meat that was on display. Oh, welcome. The shopkeeper greeted with a bright smile on her face. Mizu meat is for humans, but Yagura bulls like them too. Give me 20 of them. Luffy yelled without hesitation, salivating at the smell of the meat like his own bull. Hey, let me try some too, Luffy. Usopp pleaded, earning a thumbs up from his superior. The stall owner laughed as she handed the order over to the waiting marine, the rear admiral handing a few to his sniper and bulls to share. Biting into the soft meat, Usopp, Luffy and the Yagura bulls melted into pure bliss at the soft texture and the delicate taste of the meat. It's so soft, both men sighed in bliss. Nami shook her head as she coaxed her own bull towards the end of the market district, wondering where the aquatic elevator mentioned on her map was. A well-dressed woman wearing a floral print cap answered Nami's queries. The gate for the elevator to Water 7 City Center will be closing in 1 minute. Please enter before the gate closes. Pulling at the reins, Nami directed the still blissful bull towards the entrance, yelling at Luffy to do the same. Entering the chamber just as the doors began closing behind them, Luffy wondered aloud what was going to happen. Well, as the name suggests, this is an aquatic elevator. It uses the concept of filling up an enclosed space with water to lift floating objects to a higher level, while draining the water would result in the opposite effect, Nami explained. Truly a city of water, Usopp gasped in amazement just as the chamber began filling up with water. Look! We're going up! Luffy yelled in excitement, watching the ceiling coming closer towards them. As the water level evened at the bottom of a metallic double door, the Straw Hats waited with bated breath as it opened to reveal the splendor of Water 7's city center before them. The giant fountain they had seen on their way here looked much more imposing up close, giant torrents of water cascading down from its tip to flow into the various canals below it before dropping down to the districts below. Just to the right of the elevator, an impressive dock was built with various pieces of machinery and ships in the process of construction. The area was surrounded by a waist-high fence and a towering double door with the number 1 painted on it. Whoa! Look guys! There's some really big machines there. Usopp pointed at the dock. And there's a big crowd at the gate too. Let's go check it out. Luffy grinned. Luffy, wait. We still need to get the gold exchanged. Nami protested. But I want to see. Luffy pouted. Nami shook her head. We can come back here after we get the money, there's too big of a crowd to see anything anyway. Alright. Let's go get the gold exchanged quickly. Luffy yelled enthusiastically, spurring his bull onwards. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji were walking side by side on the outskirts of the city, both men having an equally resentful look on their face. Sanji had his hands stuck inside his white suit pants, ignoring the wind that was blowing against his marine coat. Zoro similarly had his left hand in his pocket while his right hand rested on the hilt of a sword hidden underneath his own marine cloak. Can't believe I'm stuck with an idiotic brute like you again. Sanji sighed. Well, I can't believe I'm stuck with a moronic pervert like you either, Zoro gritted his teeth. Sanji glared at the swordsman. We were on the same damn boat and you were the damn passenger too. So explain to me, how exactly did you end up in another person's boat? How the hell would I know? Probably because of your crappy driving skills. A tick mark formed on the chef's head. That doesn't even make any sense. You just had to sit there. How did you even? You know what? Forget it. I can never understand what a dumbass thinks or does. Zoro gritted his teeth. You calling me a dumbass? Only a dumbass can get as lost as you do. You wanna go, huh? You'll probably get lost while fighting me. Both men stopped after noticing a house in front of them. The large house had a lopsided roof and a few cranes sticking out from the back, while a small wind generator creaked loudly at the side. A large sign hung over the main entrance, the disjointed letters barely spelling out the words legibly. Frankie House, huh? Zoro muttered. This whole place screams shady. Sanji noted how the place seemed ready to fall apart, not to mention the fact that these group of workers were situated far outside the city itself. Zoro shrugged. The locals said if we're looking for the best scrappers, they would be the ones. If I didn't know better, I would say these guys were doing some illegal things at the side. They're scrappers, not builders. Of course they wouldn't be able to build a good house. I would have to agree to that logic. But couldn't they hire someone to do it? Sanji frowned. Both men pushed open the door that led into the building, stepping inside without hesitation. Within the room, various men wearing a variety of scrap armor turned their eyes to the new visitors. All of them seemed to be in the midst of lazing around, with a few of them lying down on the floor or napping in their chairs. A tense moment passed before the room leapt to life, all of them scrambling around to either hide themselves or their weapons that were lying around the place. Most of them began shouting at one another, accusing each other of the reason two marine captains showed up on their doorstep. One of them pointed an accusing finger at another. What did you do this time? I didn't do anything, I swear. I was here the whole day. The same man switched his finger to another. Then it must be you. Why else would they come here? I only picked up a 10-berry note on my way back. I didn't even get into any fights. Why didn't you give the note to the authorities? The man gripped his hair in frustration. I didn't know anyone saw me pick it up. Then why else would they be here? I might have bumped into an old man by accident today. A fat man admitted sheepishly. Was it because I didn't look both sides before crossing the road? Another wondered while stuffing a few guns below the table. Oh no. They must have found out I made a baby cry with my look. A man with a face full of scars cried, hiding his face from view. My Yagura bull was only a little above the speed limit. He was hungry. A skinny man yelled, throwing the cannons into the storeroom. Quiet! A gruff voice shouted from the back, instantly silencing the room. A muscular man with spiky blue hair appeared from the back room, the rest of the Frankie family parting to make way for him as he made his way towards the Marines. Both Marine captains noted that the man only wore a set of swim briefs under his red Hawaiian shirt, which he had left open as well. Two women who could be mistaken as twins with almost similar absurdly large squarish hairstyles flanked his sides. I'm Frankie, boss of these guys, Frankie pointed at himself with a thumb. Whata you want? While Sanji was reconsidering their choice of scrappers, Zoro stepped forward with his arms crossed. We're looking to hire some guys to scrap a ship. You up for the job? If the already quiet room could get any more silent, Zoro's words just made it possible. Every single man in the room had their eyes bulging out in disbelief while holding their breaths, even Frankie had his mouth agape in shock. You're offering us a job? Frankie asked, his voice trembling in anticipation. Both Zoro and Sanji nodded. Frankie spun on his heel to pose with his arms in the air, holding them together to display the star-shaped tattoo he had on both arms. The two women at his side had also adopted the same pose beside him, as though they were his backup dancers. You hear that, guys? These guys are customers. Treat them as superior VIPs. All at once, the room erupted into chaos again as everyone scrambled to move a huge table to the center of the room while laying various sorts of food on it. Please, customers. Take a seat. Take a seat. Frankie laughed as he gestured towards the table. Raising an eyebrow at the abrupt change in attitudes, both Marine captains sat down at the table while a few of the scrappers scurried around, making sure they were comfortable. Taking a seat opposite them, Frankie gave them a grin. So, let's iron out the details for this superior job, shall we? Sanji slid a hand into his suit, pulling out a piece of paper before sliding it across to Frankie. These are our terms, no negotiations. Frankie raised an eyebrow, wondering if it was some sort of secret project of the world governments that needed to be scrapped. Deciding that it was unlikely the government might hire a civilian group through the Marines to scrap a secret project, he picked up the paper and began scanning through it. What? Frankie roared, slamming the table. A measly 1% of the value of the ship as payment? And you guys get to keep the scrap? Not surprised by his outburst, Sanji nodded. Those are the terms for taking this job. Frankie pointed an accusatory finger towards Sanji, his previous civil attitude disintegrating. You damn government dogs think you can take advantage of honest workers like us, huh? You think we're new to the ship scrapping business or something? I take it you don't find the term satisfactory. Zoro crossed his arms. Frankie directed his glare towards the Marine swordsman. We don't run a charity here. I'll pay 10,000 berries per ton of scrap your ship has, but we keep the scrap. No deal, Sanji denied flatly. Frankie gritted his teeth. If it was not for the fact that work had been rather hard to come by these few months, he would have already thrown the two Marines out through the door. The rest of the Frankie family glanced at their boss with uncertainty, unsure of what they should do. Frankie glared hard at the two Marines, both them watching him with their arms crossed, neither flinching under the intensity of his ire. What's the value of the ship? Frankie finally asked through gritted teeth. Both Marines shrugged, further angering the scrapper. You're asking me to take on a job that may or may not incur a loss on our part? Well, what's the value of a ship that was made from an entire city's worth of gold? 10 billion? Maybe more? Zoro asked, smirking devilishly. Frankie's eyes bulged as his jaw dropped, his mind still trying to comprehend what he just heard. 1%, Sanji reminded him. I think we're already being rather generous. At the art district, Chopper and Robin were cruising through the canals on their Jagerabul, scanning the various stores that they were passing by. Wow! Water 7 is so cool. Everything is designed around water. Chopper exclaimed. Foo. It is, isn't it? It's the first time I've seen something like this myself, Robin said with a small smile. Turning round the corner, the archaeologist found the building that both of them were looking for. Look, Mr. Doctor, the library is just ahead. Right at the end of the canal, a huge 5-story building made out of polished marble with Roman columns at its corners stood proudly. Above the entrance, the words Water 7 Central Library were carved precisely, showcasing the skill of the mason in charge. As the two disembarked from their bowl onto the street, Robin had noticed Chopper already jumping around in excitement, his eyes sparkling at the sight of the library. Why don't you go on ahead, Mr. Doctor? I'll catch up, Robin suggested, smiling at the reindeer's eagerness. Ray. Really? Then I'll go ahead first. Chopper cheered, dashing off into the library ahead of her. Robin chuckled at the sight, slowly making her way up the steps that led to the library. Just as Robin passed a large cloaked figure wearing a carnival mask, the figure slowed down enough to whisper a word audible only to them before resuming his way past her. Robin's body shuddered the moment she heard the word, stopping in her tracks. A bead of cold sweat rolled down her temple as her mind ran through countless simulations of what might happen from the word that the figure had whispered. Turning around, she spotted the figure walking away with a deliberately slow speed, the intentions clear as day. CP9. Robin whispered dreadfully, her eyes filled with fear. With only a glance back at the library, the archaeologist turned to follow the departing figure, her eyes downcast. 200 million berries? Usopp asked in trepidation. The 3 straw hats were seated in a luxurious room inside the largest exchange in the city, a gigantic pile of gold spread out on the table in front of them. The appraiser lowered the magnifying glass he held in his hand. No doubt about it, these are all old gold, worth every berry of it. Woof! We can buy a lot of things with that. Luffy laughed. The appraiser hid a smirk at the two's naivety. If there is nothing else, I will prepare the money for dash. A foot impacted the table with a loud bang, silencing the appraiser. Nami glanced at the appraiser with a smirk of her own. 200 million, you say? Yee. Yes, miss. The appraiser stuttered, flinching under her gaze. The navigator huffed before pointing a thumb to Luffy. Sitting in front of you is a rear admiral from Marine headquarters. If you continue your scam, we'll arrest you right here and shut down this business. Removing her leg from the table, the navigator crossed her arms with a smirk. So, what was the price you offered again? The appraiser's teeth chattered upon hearing her words. Usopp walked out of the building while clutching 2 large suitcases close to his chest, his eyes darting around furtively. Following behind him, Nami similarly held onto 2 suitcases with an iron grip, daring anyone to take her prizes from her. On the other hand, Luffy held both suitcases with a hand while digging his nose with the other, not a care in the world. Who would have known that we got 600 million from just that? Usopp muttered, clinging the suitcases closer to himself. I was already expecting this much to start with, Nami laughed nervously. But still, seeing this much money at once is quite nerve-wracking for me. Luffy laughed, tossing both suitcases over his shoulder. These aren't even the bulk of what we have. We still have the gold from the Ark too. I already told Sanji and Zoro the terms of agreement for the Ark's scrapping, Nami commented, clambering on board the Jagerabul along with the others. As long as they don't do anything stupid, we would get a good deal out of the scrap too. Following the water current down the canal, the trio returned back to the huge dock they had seen on their way to the exchange. Hey, the crowd's gone, Usopp noted, parking their bull near the gigantic doors. Great! Let's go find that iceberg guy! Luffy exclaimed, marching towards the dock. Luffy! Are you sure we don't need an appointment or something? Nami protested. Hey! Luffy yelled, already trying to climb over the fence. Why did I even ask? The navigator sighed. Before the rear admiral can vault over the fence, a figure appeared in front of him, his palm pushing against Luffy's chest to prevent him from going further. Whoa there, this is a restricted area. Even Marines need clearance to come in here, the figure announced. Stepping back from the fence, Luffy took a good look at the figure who stopped him. A man wearing a white cap with the word galley printed on and a high-collared orange shirt with blue sleeves and jeans stood smiling at him. A prominent squarish long nose jutted out from underneath his cap's brim, peeking out from just above his shirt collar. Usopp? Luffy tilted his head quizzically. I'm right here. Usopp protested from behind. Smiling at the two, the carpenter introduced himself. I am Kaku, one of Galileo's carpenters. How may I assist you Marines today? Oh, we're here to have our ship fixed. Here's a recommendation letter, Nami replied, passing the letter that Kokoro had given them. Receiving the letter with both hands, Kaku scanned through its contents quickly. Ah, a letter from Miss Kokoro. Not a problem, you just want your ship repaired, right? Yeah, do you know who Iceberg is? The Marine navigator asked. How can I not? Iceberg is the mayor of this city and the president of our company. He's a very important person here. Oh? He must be very strong then? Luffy laughed. The carpenter chuckled. Mr. Iceberg is a well-respected man, everyone in this city looks up to him. What does your ship look like? I assume that it's at the government docks? Nami nodded. It's a ship with a sheep as its figurehead. Unbuckling the belt of carpentry tools on his waist to let it drop on the ground, Kaku began stretching his legs as though preparing for a sprint. I'll take a look at your ship first, that way you can discuss what kind of modifications and repairs you want for your ship to Mr. Iceberg when you meet him straight away. Usopp raised an eyebrow. You're going there on a Yagura bull? Kaku chuckled. Ha ha, if I did that you'll need to wait all day. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Without waiting for a reply, the carpenter rushed towards the edge of the dock, leaping off the cliff to the lower districts below without hesitation. Whoa! Does he know how to walk on air too? Usopp asked. Is that normal for the people here? Nami wondered aloud. Luffy only stared at the direction that Kaku disappeared to, his eyes squinted and a frown on his face. At the market district, a marine chef and swordsman were leading a large group of scrappers towards the government docks, some of them carrying shopping bags full of groceries in their arms. I know they said they didn't mind helping us with this, but couldn't we drop them off at the docks first before doing your damn grocery shopping? Zoro groaned, hefting the bags he was carrying over his shoulder. Hey, who am I to turn down willing help? Besides, I'm feeding you too, so stop whining, Sanji growled back, paying the fishmonger for the fish he just bought. Zoro sighed. So are we done yet, or is there still more to buy? Oh, we're done. We can head back to the docks now. Zoro turned to regard the group of scrappers. Well, sorry about making you guys help us carry these. The leader of the group, Zambai, shook his head quickly. Oh, it's no problem at all, dear customers. Boss said to do whatever you asked after all. Before Zoro can retort to that, Sanji had screamed out Robin's name in elation, rushing past the swordsman towards one of the alleyways of the market. Cursing under his breath, Zoro told the scrappers to wait for him as he chased after the love-struck cook, weaving through the crowd to reach the alley. Turning the corner, he spots Sanji standing alone at the entrance of the alley, scratching his head in confusion. Hey, what the hell did you run off for? Zoro asked, a tick mark forming on his head. I could have sworn I saw Robin-chan walking here with a masked man. Sanji muttered, still confused. Scanning the alley that led out to a dead end, Zoro noted there were no doors or windows on either side that anyone could have left the alley through. Unless the person had the ability to fly, anyone entering this alley had to leave through the entrance that Sanji and Zoro were both standing at. You must have been so sexually frustrated that you're seeing things, Zoro huffed, turning around to storm back to the waiting scrappers. Sanji frowned at those words but decided not to retort, giving the alley one last look before turning back to catch up with the rest. Within an alternate dimension in the alley, Robin stood beside the tall masked man that she had met near the library, watching Zoro and Sanji leave with an emotionless face. Having second thoughts? The masked man asked. Robin shook her head slightly. closing her eyes just as Sanji left her sight. I'll do it. Chapter 32, Sheep in Wolf's Clothing. In front of the gates to Dock 1, the best dock of the Galila Company, 3 marine officers stood staring towards the cliff where they had just witnessed one of the shipwrights leap off without fear. Well, I didn't think he'd actually jump off the cliff, Usopp muttered, still in awe of Kaku's speed. It's alright, he does that quite often, that's why we call him Mountain Wind, a voice answered from behind. The 3 marines turned to see a tall man with striking blue hair wearing a red and orange striped shirt standing behind them, a small mouse peeking out from his shirt pocket. A woman with strawberry blonde hair in a secretary outfit stood beside him, a clipboard in hand. Kaku was one of the chief mechanics of Galila. In order to build and repair ships with the best efficiency, we don't just hire any run-of-the-mill carpenters, the blue-haired man explained proudly. Smiling at the sight of the straw hats' odd faces, the man petted the mouse absent-mindedly. Khalifa? What have we got? The secretary adjusted her glasses slightly with her hand upon the mention of her name, looking down on her clipboard with pursed lips as she ratted off their intel. Rear Admiral Monkey D. Luffy, commander of the Straw Hat Marines and Marine hero Garp's grandson. Their crew consists of 5 other captains and have been hailed the rising stars of the Marines, bringing down the most wanted in East Blue and halting a civil war in Alabasta by defeating the warlord Crocodile. Recipient of the Valiant Justice Medal and Desert Heart Medal on top of several other commendations. Ah! They know everything, huh? Usopp gulped. Nami huffed, it's not that impressive, anyone who reads a newspaper can get that kind of information. Insolence! Khalifa yelled, suddenly kicking out her leg at the 3 marines without warning. Nami saw it coming and ducked her head, barely avoiding the kick aimed at her temple. Usopp was a little slower to react, shifting his weight to the side to avoid the kick, feeling the secretary's leg brush the sleeve of his coat slightly. For the rear admiral, he just needed to tilt his head slightly, avoiding the kick completely without any other movements. How dare you talk like that to Mr. Iceberg, mayor of this city and the best shipmaker in the world? Please don't make Khalifa angry, or else all hell breaks loose, the blue-haired man groaned, revealing that most of her kicks had landed on his face instead, prompting Luffy to laugh at his predicament. Khalifa paled, ah. My apologies, Mr. Iceberg. Nami brightened, oh, you're Iceberg? I have a letter for you. Receiving the same letter that she had passed to Kaku, Iceberg smiled when he read its contents. The words "check out their ship" were written haphazardly and a disgustingly prominent lip print marred the bottom of the page. Without hesitation, he shredded the paper into pieces with his hands, scattering the pieces away into the wind. Hey! We'll pay you to fix our ship. Usopp protested, thinking the shipwright was against helping them for insulting him in some way. No problem, Iceberg agreed instantly. Nami's face faulted, why did you tear up the letter then? The mayor picked his nose with his pinky finger, I didn't like the lip mark. Kokoro was my old drinking buddy. May I remind you, sir? You still have a meeting with the glass factory owner at Chiza Hotel, a speech at Liguria Plaza and then another meeting with the mayor of Pucci for a press conference. Khalifa reminded him dutifully. The blue-haired mayor pouted, eh? I don't wanna. I'll cancel all of that, Khalifa immediately drew a big cross over the schedule. What an irresponsible guy. Both Nami and Usopp sweat dropped. Well, since I'm free now, why don't I show you guys around the place? Iceberg gestured to the docks behind him. Any friend of Kokoro's a friend of mine. Oh, I almost forgot about our money. Usopp turned back to fetch the suitcases of money they had left on the bulls. The marine sniper froze when he saw a blond man with a cigar in his mouth crouched over one of the open suitcases, his eyes as wide as saucers as he beheld its contents. Hey! Usopp shouted, stunning the man into closing the suitcase shut. That's our money. It's mine now. The man shouted, leaping off the Straw Hat's bull onto his own Yagura bull, already making a hasty escape with 2 of the suitcases. A.H. Luffy! Go get him! Hurry! Nami yelled, clutching her head. It's fine, Luffy grinned, nodding towards the boat when Usopp and Nami glanced at him questioningly. Both Marine captains turned back to spot a man with wavy hair half hidden by a black top hat standing beside the thief, his right hand gripping onto the thief's ear tightly. Hey! Hey! I get it, okay? I'm not running anymore. Just let go of me. The thief yelled indignantly, though his arms remained wrapped around the suitcases possessively. Ma, the guy holding onto your suitcases is Polly, another of our chief mechanics. Unfortunately, he's in quite a bit of debt, so he's desperate for money, Iceberg explained apologetically. The top hat-wearing carpenter threw Polly in front of the Marines, his face devoid of any emotions. A white pigeon glided down from the air to land on his shoulder, turning to address the straw hats. Our deepest apologies, sirs, for the trouble this fool has caused you. I am the pigeon Hattori, and this man here is my owner, Lucci. Whoa! The pigeon spoke. Usopp yelled out in surprise. No, you idiot. Nami smacked him on the head. That guy's a ventriloquist. Wow. I didn't even suspect that. You're good. The sniper praised. Lucci only shrugged at the praise, the pigeon mimicking his actions with its wings. Damn. I was so close too, Polly groaned, getting up from the ground while massaging his head. Stealing from Marines to repay your debt? That's a new low even for you, Polly, the pigeon on Lucci's shoulder said. Shut up, Lucci. I've had it with you. Rope action, bowline knot. A length of rope shot out from Polly's sleeve, wrapping itself on Lucci's wrist in a bowline knot. The top hat-wearing carpenter stared at the rope with disinterest, not even reacting when Hattori chose that moment to take off into the air. Death lift. Polly pulled the rope over his shoulder, tossing Lucci into the air before sending him crashing back into the ground in a cloud of dust. Isn't that going a bit too far? Nami gasped. Ma. It's normal around here, Iceberg sighed, as though he had already seen such a scene one too many times. The Straw Hats watched on as the dust cloud cleared to reveal Lucci absolutely unharmed, having stopped his fall with an outstretched hand, his fingers embedded in the concrete ground. He broke his fall with a single hand. Usopp gasped in amazement. Flipping himself back on his feet, the carpenter dusted himself off just as the pigeon returned to land on his shoulder. Sorry you had to see that, dear customers, the pigeon began talking again while its owner passed the suitcases back to Nami. Catching sight of the Marine navigator's clothes, Polly pointed an accusatory finger at her. What the hell? What do you think you're doing wearing such a short skirt like that? How shameless can you be? Nami raised an eyebrow, looking down at her skirt which just barely reached her mid-thigh. Polly turned to avert his gaze, only to see Califa wearing a pencil skirt that was shorter in length. Shit. Even Califa is wearing such a shameless outfit. What's wrong with women nowadays? Wow, Galila's carpenters are a real weird bunch. Usopp frowned. Iceberg smiled wryly, they have their quirks. But it's their skills in carpentry that really matters. Come, I'll show you the docks that is the pride of Galila. Taking the cue, Polly and Lucci pushed open the huge gates that led into the docks, showing the way in for the three Marine guests. Entering the docks, the three Straw Hats were awed by the sight in front of them. Various machinery were currently in operation, moving tons of wood and steel around the dock alongside carpenters that sawed and hammered away all around them. A multitude of ships were also docked there, some for repairs and others clearly newly commissioned ships. Upon seeing the group that just entered, almost all the carpenters within sight stopped their work to greet Iceberg with broad smiles. Oh! Good morning, President Iceberg. Good morning, Mr. Iceberg. I just finished the plating on the ship, Mr. Iceberg. Won't you take a look? Thank you for your hard work as always, President. Iceberg just smiled and waved at the carpenters, exchanging a few words of formalities with them before leading the group deeper into the dock, introducing his guests to various parts of the dock as they moved along. Uncle Ice is really popular, isn't he? Luffy laughed. This city is known for our shipwrights where a carpenter's skills are everything. Califa explained. 5 years ago Iceberg had impressed everyone with his skills and love in carpentry and formed the Galila Company as its president. Even then, his skills as a carpenter did not deteriorate, causing the workers to respect him even more. Looking to the side, she realized the Marine Rear Admiral had already disappeared to Iceberg's side, slapping the older man on the shoulder. "Hey Uncle Ice. You're a pretty cool guy. Want to be a marine carpenter on my ship?" Ignoring the curses and shocked gasps of his employees, Iceberg merely smiled at Luffy. "Ma. I'm the mayor of this city, so I can't. But if you find anyone here willing to follow you, I don't mind you taking them with you." "Really? Thanks Uncle Ice." Luffy cheered. "But still, how good are the other carpenters?" Usopp asked. Iceberg gestured around him with his arms splayed open with a proud smile. "You are currently standing in the best dock in the world. You can find no better carpenters than the ones here. I can assure the skill of every employee here myself." "That's quite a boast," Nami noted, impressed. "Of course, shameless girl," Polly snorted. "Even the world government commissions their ships from us." At that moment, Kaku descended from the sky, landing in a clearing not far from them. "Ah, Kaku, did you find their ship?" Iceberg asked, waving the long-nosed carpenter over. Kaku nodded, striding towards the group that was clustered around a makeshift table the other employees had prepared for their customers. "Yes, I have the report right here." Iceberg invited the Straw Hats to sit at the table, Califa already serving various refreshments she had mysteriously prepared. After the marine officers were comfortable, Kaku pulls out a clipboard from within his jacket, flipping through it as he stood opposite them. "Firstly, for repairs. The main mast and sails needs replacing along with its lines and rigging. Several parts of the deck have seen damage, so I recommend a new set of railings and floorboards. The rudder and wheel have also been broken before, thus I also advise an upgrade on both of them. The seastone coating at the bottom has begun to fade as well. We can apply a new one if you request it." The Straw Hats nodded, knowing full well how damaged their ship was. "As for improvements, the cabins were also built with an older design. We can upgrade them or just repair them as to your wishes. The storage decks below can also be reinforced with steel plating and the cannons could be replaced with newer models. If you so wished, we can also do a complete overhaul of your current furniture or a full polish of your current ones if you do not wish to part with them." All three of them were impressed by the efficiency and quality of the work. The carpenter's boasts about being the best were definitely not for naught. However, Kaku frowns as he lowers the clipboard to his side. "I personally recommend you to retire your ship and build a new one." "What?" The Straw Hats gasped in unison, still not believing what the carpenter just suggested. Polly raised an eyebrow. "Something wrong with the keel?" Kaku nodded. "Your ship's keel has shown signs of tearing. It's only a matter of time before it cracks at this rate." "Can't you fix it?" "That's what we're here for, isn't it?" Nami asked. Polly snorted. "Do you know what's a keel, shameless girl? You can't just take it apart and replace it. That's already like building a new ship. Your ship is dying." "That's bullshit," Usopp yelled, standing up with enough force to topple the chair backwards. "Mary has been sailing fine with us so far. We went to the sky with her. We sailed through the calm belt. We faced storms and icebergs and snow and rain and everything else. There's no way Mary will die just like that." Hattori gave a mock sigh on Lucci's shoulder. "You know a ship isn't like a human's body, right? While a human might get tougher and stronger through their wounds over time, a ship will just break down with the damage accumulating one after another." But. Luffy raised a hand to stop Usopp, his eyes staring straight at Kaku emotionlessly. "How long?" 3. Maybe 4 months at most for a voyage that will involve combat. Less than 2 months if it's under constant stress. "Luffy, you can't be giving up on Mary now, are you? She's a part of us," Usopp protested. Luffy ignored the sniper's protest. "Can you prolong it?" Kaku turned to Iceberg, who gave a slow nod in return before turning back to the three Marines. "We may be able to reinforce it slightly, but this would just be delaying the inevitable. I would advise retiring the ship no more than half a year later lest you want to sink with it." "Half a year?" Luffy mumbled under his breath, crossing his arms. Usopp stared off into space, not believing for a moment that the ship they had sailed so far with had only another half a year left before becoming scrap. Nami frowned as she saw the look on both of her crewmates' faces. Suddenly the huge amount of money they held seemed so insignificant. Khalifa stepped forward to place a catalog in front of the Rear Admiral. "This is a collection of our recent models. You can commission a new one from us should you wish for it." Luffy looked at the book, not moving to touch it. Polly shrugged at the Marine's stubbornness. "It's still up to you guys, it's your lives that are on the line, not ours." "We'll think about it," Luffy muttered while standing up, the catalog untouched. Before the three Marines could leave, a bare-chested muscular man with tattoos on his chest and arms walked towards them. Everyone noted that the man had a distinct strand of hair sticking straight up at the side of his head. "Mr. Iceberg, there's a few representatives of the world government here to see you. Should I tell them to leave?" Iceberg sighed. "Tell them I'm not here." "And did you forget to comb your hair again, Lulu?" "My apologies." Lulu tried to push the offending strand of hair down, only to have it pop back up at the other side of his head. "I will go ahead and tell those guys to come back another time." "Not so fast, Mr. Iceberg," a well-dressed man called out from the other side of the dock. The man had a scar running down the right side of his face, half hidden by his black cowboy hat. Two men of intimidating size dressed in similar attires flanked his sides, following him like his shadows. "Ma. Long time no see, Corgi. Sorry, but I'm not here today." Corgi frowned. "Are you drunk or something? I sat on that sea train for a long time just to see you, so don't kick me out yet. I got some things I need to talk to you about." As the three government agents got closer, Corgi spots the three Marines at the side, more specifically Luffy. His eyes widened and he immediately stopped in his tracks. Even the two bodyguards beside him seemed to freeze up at the sight of the Rear Admiral. "Lou? Mr. Luff. I mean, Rear Admiral Luffy. I didn't know you were here." Corgi sputtered, fear evident in his voice. Nami and Usopp raised an eyebrow at the agent's attitude, the carpenters mimicking the same expression. "Corgi," Luffy nodded in greeting, though his eyes held no mirth in seeing him. "My humblest apologies. Am I interrupting something?" the agent asked, his hands visibly trembling by his sides. "No, we were just leaving," Luffy announced, picking up all 6 of the suitcases with a single hand. "Let's go." The other 2 Straw Hats followed him out, glancing back at Corgi who had visibly relaxed from Luffy's departure. "Hey! Luffy? Who was that?" Nami tried asking, running to catch up with him. Luffy ignored the question until they were out of the docks, tossing the suitcases onto their Yagurables. "Someone I used to work with in the past. I did not enjoy the work." Luffy finally answered, sitting down heavily on his own bull. The bull nuzzled Luffy in worry, earning it a pat on the head. "We should get going, the others need to know of Mary's condition." The Rear Admiral sighed. Usopp flinched upon hearing that, but he decided to keep his opinions to himself until they returned to the ship. Returning back to the market district, the Straw Hats drifted through the waterways in silence, all 3 occupied in their own thoughts. Luffy seemed to be the most distracted, his eyes staring into space with his arms crossed in front of his chest, allowing his bull to guide them back on its own accord. Spotting a familiar reindeer, Usopp pointed to the side. "Hey, isn't that Chopper?" The other 2 Marine officers turned to see a distressed Chopper running up and down the street, clearly unsure of what he wanted to do. "Chopper?" Luffy called out, gaining the attention of the Marine doctor. Chopper snapped his head around to see his 3 friends waving back at him. Smiling in relief, he immediately bounded towards them. "Guys! I lost Robin. I can't find her anywhere." "Huh? Could she have gone back to the ship without you?" Usopp asked. Nami frowned. "That doesn't sound like something Robin would do." All eyes turned to Luffy, who had already closed his eyes in concentration. A few seconds passed before he shook his head. "I can't find her." "Ugh. I'm sorry, guys," Chopper cried. "It's not your fault, Chopper. Maybe she really did go back to the ship," Usopp comforted. "Get on, Chopper, let's go meet the others first." Luffy patted the empty seat behind him, prompting the marine doctor to hop in. Returning the bowls to the rental shop, the four Straw Hats strolled into the government docks, finding Zoro and Sanji standing at the side overlooking a few workers that were appraising their arc. "Zoro, Sanji," Luffy called out, walking over to join them. "How's the scrapping?" Zoro stuck a thumb towards the arc. "Got those guys to work for us, still not sure how good they are." "Did they agree to our terms?" Nami asked. "Of course, Nami Swan." Sanji sang. "Your prince will fulfill your wishes no matter what they are." The navigator rolled her eyes just as Zambai approached them with nervous steps. Dear customers, we have estimated the value of the ship to be around 50 to 100 billion. We could get a more precise value once we separate the scrap from the gold and appraise it again." Zoro smirked at those words while Sanji whistled in appreciation. Nami's eyes had already turned into berry notes while Usopp and Chopper felt their knees go weak upon hearing the value. "With your permission, we can start any time now," Zambai finished. "All right, go ahead with it," Luffy agreed without hesitation. Nami slid 5 of the suitcases towards the scrapper. "Here's the advance payment for the work, 500 million berries, we'll add more if the value increases too." Zambai's jaw dropped as he heard the amount of money that was just given to him. The marine navigator grinned at his reaction. "If you want more, you better find someone who can appraise the gold well," Nami suggested with a wink. Yes. I'll get right to it." Zambai saluted before scooping up the suitcases in his arms, running back to get more people to deliver the money back to Frankie. Now with that out of the way, Luffy frowned before motioning the rest to follow him, Sanji and Zoro moving a beat later, realizing the atmosphere around the Rear Admiral was more strained than usual. Entering the Marine outpost, the Rear Admiral waved over one of the Marines stationed there. "Rear Admiral, sir. What can I help you with?" The Marine saluted. "Help us prepare a meeting room, big enough for all of us," Luffy ordered while returning the Marine's salute. "Right away, sir." The Marine scurried off to obey. "Did something happen?" Sanji asked, wondering what happened to warrant such a serious Luffy. Nami sighed. "Luffy will tell you later." The same Marine scurried back and saluted proudly. "Rear Admiral, sir. Meeting room 5 is free for you to use." Thanking the Marine with a curt nod, Luffy followed him through the outpost to a large room dominated by a large marble table in the center of the room. The table was big enough to seat the current Straw Hats with room to spare, freshly brewed drinks already placed on the table for the Marine officers. Luffy noted that there were no windows present, a sign that the room was also soundproofed by Marine standards. "If you require anything else, just ring the bell outside the room, sir," the Marine added with a salute before closing the doors behind him. "Sit down," Luffy sighed, taking his place at the head of the table. "This might take a while." The Straw Hats took their own places, Zoro and Sanji still wondering about the tension in Luffy's voice while Nami, Usopp and Chopper already had an inkling of what he was going to say. "First, Robin is missing," Luffy announced without preamble. Sanji immediately leapt up to his feet. "What? Why are we sitting here then? We need to go out and find her." "Sit down and let Luffy finish talking, you perverted cook," Zoro growled, irritation clear on his face. The chef gritted his teeth but sat down obediently. "I have been trying to look for her with my haki for a while now, but so far, nothing. Either she has already left this city or she's somewhere that blocks her voice from me. Another thing is..." Luffy faltered for a moment before continuing, "The carpenters who appraised Mary told us she is doomed as a marine vessel. They can't do anything except prolong her life by a few months." Zoro, Sanji and Chopper were visibly shaken by the news. "I suggest we put Mary to rest and get ourselves a new Dash." "No!" Usopp struck the table with his fist. "How can you say that, Luffy? I thought you of all people would want to save Mary. She's a comrade just like us." "Usopp." Luffy frowned. "Mary is living on borrowed time with us. You believe the words of a stranger? Mary has carried us so far. She's absolutely fine. She can still reach the end of the Grand Line and back without problems." Luffy narrowed his eyes. "I will not endanger the lives of the crew over an uncertainty. So that's it? Usopp bit back a curse. Sacrificing one to save the many? I thought you hated that ideal? I thought you always wanted to protect everyone? Does Mary not count? Why are you bringing that up now? Luffy growled. That's what you're doing, isn't it? Scrapping Mary for a new ship. If you think I will accept Mary's death sitting down, then you're dead wrong. I'll fight even you just to save her. Luffy was taken aback by the sniper's outburst. Usopp pointed a finger at his commanding officer, so if you want to scrap Mary and leave her to die, you're gonna have to do it over my dead body. Usopp. Luffy sighed, a slight tinge of amusement in his voice. You thought I was suggesting on scrapping a friend? The sniper was suddenly unsure of himself. What? Ha? Air? You're not? Nami giggled. What do you think we are? Pirates? The Marines have a system of mothballing well-known ships, you know? Usopp gulped. Mothball. Mary? Luffy nodded with a smile. When that carpenter suggested us to retire the ship, it was not to scrap it, you know? The numbers he gave us was taking into consideration the chances of facing combat situations. If Mary retires from military service, she can still be repurposed as a civilian vessel. Then. Yep. We do not need to scrap Mary, but of course, we don't need to repurpose her either. I can put in a request to mothball Mary on the account of us commissioning a new ship for ourselves. We'll be heading further into the Grand Line after all. Would they accept that? Usopp dared to hope. Luffy grinned. We cleaned up East Blue and cleared out Crocodile on that ship. The Marines would jump at the chance to keep the ship as a symbol for themselves if not for anything else. Even Gramps has a few ships mothballed under his name. They have his old ship that he used to chase Roger and preserved at headquarters. Usopp frowned, but leaving Mary behind while we go on ahead is a bit. Luffy sighed. Which is better, Usopp? To let an injured comrade rest or to force them to keep fighting on and kill themselves? Then. Where can we leave Mary at? Would she be safe? Shishishi, I know a base that we can keep her at. It's a base known to be impenetrable, so Mary will definitely be safe there. Usopp scratched his face sheepishly. I see. Sorry about what I said, Luffy. I wasn't thinking. It's fine, we all care about Mary, don't we? Luffy stood up to clap his friend on the back. Sanji cleared his throat, garnering the attention of the room. As much as I would like to be happy about this, Robin is still missing. The atmosphere of the room immediately took a nosedive. Luffy crossed his arms and closed his eyes for a moment, concentrating for the space of 3 breaths before shaking his head once more. Why would Robin disappear? Chopper asked, a tear in the corner of his eye. Maybe she's hiding herself? Nami suggested, though rather unsure of it herself. Zoro frowned. Why would she hide herself? We're supposed to be protecting her, aren't we? It's not impossible. Luffy sighed. All eyes rested on the Rear Admiral, noticing his less than jovial attitude. Luffy, you've been like this ever since we saw that Corgi guy. Who is he? Nami asked. Luffy glanced at his crew, seeing all of them look at him expectantly. I guess I owe an explanation. 2 years ago I was transferred to another unit and I had to work with people like him. People of the government. I hated my time there and seeing him brought back some memories. The Straw Hats saw their Rear Admiral reminiscence uncharacteristically, wondering what actually happened that can get him to think so deeply. Shaking himself out of his thoughts, the Rear Admiral continued, if Corgi is here, members of the Cypher Pole might have been in contact with Robin. Since they aren't part of the Marines, they don't necessarily need to care about what we think before arresting her. Sanji frowned. How can they do something like that? Luffy shrugged. We're technically 2 different entities, they operate by different rules compared to us. So Robin's in danger? Chopper gasped. No. At least not yet. Luffy comforted. I'll continue to look for her, meanwhile the rest of you clear out Mary and store our things somewhere in the city. Rent a place at an inn and I'll find you guys in the morning. I have a feeling they might make a move at night." The crew nodded, getting on their feet at once to carry out their new orders. Sanji stared out at the horizon on the hotel's roof, leaning his arm on the railing as he watched the sunrise absent-mindedly. None of the crew slept that night, all too riled up over Robin's disappearance. They had rented out a suite in one of the city center's hotels, giving them an unobstructed view of the sea and the districts below them from their room's balcony. Sanji turned to see Usopp and Chopper pacing about. Both the sniper and the doctor had been restless all night, constantly going out to check rooftops and alleyways for any signs of Robin. Nami had done the same, asking various people around the city about their archaeologist while on her way to confirm Mary's repairs with Galila. The navigator had only returned after the sky changed colors, collapsing in a corner of the room in exhaustion. Both Zoro and himself were stuck with transporting their belongings to the hotel, but that still did not stop them from searching the streets when they could. But even with all their efforts, no one had seen hide nor hair of the archaeologist. There was a flash of lightning as Luffy materialized on the balcony, his face as downcast as the rest of the crew, bags hung underneath the youth's eyes. "Nothing?" Sanji asked. Luffy shook his head. "I had my haki on full power the whole night. She's not even around the waters surrounding this city." The rear admiral collapsed onto the couch, exhausted after concentrating with his haki for such a long time. His head hurt from having to sift through so many voices at once, still unable to use his new powers as efficiently as he liked. Nami lifted her head from her corner. Might she have been kidnapped? By the Cypher Pauls? "I think Robin's better than that," Zoro snorted. "She hasn't been running all these years to get snatched up so easily." "But no one in the city has seen her," Chopper cried. What if Robin dash?" Luffy suddenly leapt to his feet, his head twisting around to stare straight ahead. "I found her." The rest of the crew immediately got on their feet, ready for anything. Doc 1. Inside a room with Uncle Ice. She shot him." Everyone's eyes widened at the words, none of them doubting what Luffy had seen for even a second. "She's walking away." She's gone?" "She's gone. I can't find her anymore." "Ugh." Luffy suddenly collapsed, grasping his head, groaning in pain. Nami stood beside him and rubbed his back, easing some of the pain from his overuse of haki. "Why would she shoot Iceberg, the mayor of this city?" Usopp wondered. Zoro gritted his teeth. "She betrayed us." "No. Robin wouldn't have done something like that." Sanji protested. "She must have been manipulated or something." "Are you really that blind? Everyone knows she's under our protection. If she pulls a stunt like that, we would be the ones in trouble." "Someone is using her. She would never dash." "Everyone," Luffy called out, silencing the two while still clutching his head. "Zoro, Sanji. Go get Captain Sharingiru to cordon off all exits of the city. Tell him there has been an assassination attempt." Both men nodded quickly without complaint. "Nami, Usopp. Go to Galila headquarters and help maintain order. There will be an uproar once the people know about this. Contact the local police and inform them of the situation as well. Chopper, you're with me, we'll head straight to Iceberg." "Move." All the straw hats scattered once Luffy gave the order, Luffy letting Chopper ride on his back as the rear admiral disappeared from the balcony in a shower of sparks. The Galila headquarters was quite as usual, none being the wiser about the assassination that just took place within. From the sky, a bolt of lightning struck down on the building, blasting a hole in the roof that led to Iceberg's room. Chopper immediately got down from Luffy and proceeded to check on the mayor, sighing in relief when he found Iceberg unconscious but still alive. Transforming into his human form, the doctor moved him to the bed, beginning his emergency treatment on the mayor. Luffy scanned the room in the meantime, wondering how Robin could evade his observation entirely and only appear right when she shot Iceberg. Did she really betray them? The windows and doors were all locked, and besides the hole in the ceiling that he had made on entry, the room was basically sealed from within. Luffy turned his attention to the door just before a knock was heard. "Mr. Iceberg? Is everything all right in there?" Forgive me, but I heard a loud noise from your room. The muffled voice of Califa materialized from beyond the door. Luffy pulled the door open, shocking Califa. Rear Admiral? What are you doing in our mayor's room? The secretary demanded. Luffy stepped out of the way to reveal the bedridden iceberg, stunning the woman to silence. There has been an assassination attempt. I brought my doctor over to save him, Luffy explained. Califa recovered quickly, nodding at his words. I understand. I will inform the necessary people. Luffy watched the secretary leave before turning his attention back to Iceberg, just in time to see Chopper extract the bullets from the wounds. Despite his fatigue, Luffy extended his haki again, looking for any traces of Robin in the city as he waited for the chief mechanics to arrive. Polly was glaring hard at the rear admiral standing beside Iceberg's bed. Beside the cigar-smoking carpenter, Kaku, Califa, Lucci and Lulu stood with varying emotions watching the reindeer doctor treat their president. Police inspectors were already at the scene, taking photographs and collecting evidence and testimonies of the present people. You think we're stupid, don't you? Polly growled. It's obvious you guys were the ones who hurt Iceberg. Kaku pulled the angry carpenter back before he could assault the marine. Polly, calm down. You have no proof. And which assassin would actually nurse their target back to health and stick around to get caught? Ha! Obviously an act to deceive us. That government agent couldn't get what he wanted from Iceberg, so he told these Marines to teach Iceberg a lesson or something. Hattori shook its head in an exaggerated manner. Are you stupid? Iceberg was shot by a gun. Do you see any guns on them? Polly cursed under his breath. They had indeed done a search on the two Marines after they arrived, finding no firearms of any sort on them. He might have hidden it somewhere. He could have flown through the roof and tossed it somewhere else. Kaku shook his head at his colleague's stubbornness. The police are already searching the area. Unless you have proof, stop embarrassing us with your baseless accusations. At that moment, Zoro and Sanji entered the room saluting their commander. Rear Admiral, Captain Shiringiru has stationed Marines watching the docks and train station for our perceived assassin. Nami and Usopp are outside helping the big muscle man control the crowd, Sanji reported. Perceived assassin? You guys know who it was? Polly roared. Before any of the Straw Hats could respond, a strained voice answered for them. Nico. Robin. Iceberg wheezed, his breaths coming out in large gasps. He tried to sit up but Chopper pushed him down, mumbling about a punctured lung. President! Polly yelled out in relief. Iceberg clutched his chest in pain while Chopper tried his best to alleviate his pain. I remember. It was Nico Robin. Who shot me? Everyone in the room looked at Luffy. Califa pushed her glasses up with a hand. Nico Robin. Currently under Rear Admiral Luffy's crew for protection as a wrongfully accused, am I correct? Luffy nodded. She has been missing since yesterday. Ha! Missing because you sent her to do the dirty work for you, isn't it? Then you come in to cover for her and finish the job if she failed, right? Polly pointed an accusatory finger at him. Making use of the devil child to keep your hands clean. And even if she was caught, it wouldn't matter to you since she's already a creamy dash. This time it was Luffy's turn to glare at Polly, shutting the carpenter up instantly. Everyone in the room shivered as they felt the temperature drop by several degrees. You do not know her, so shut up or I will make you, Luffy growled, his eyes trained on the carpenter. Polly gulped as he felt the intensity of the man's killing intent, finding himself taking a step back from the Marine. Rear Admiral. Iceberg wheezed, seemingly the only one spared of Luffy's aura. Can I ask? Why are you protecting her? The tension in the room disappeared as Luffy turned to regard the mayor. I found signs that suggest she had been wronged. As a person who protects, it is my duty to protect her while the truth is being uncovered. Iceberg stared at the Marine for a while, as though not buying his words. The silence stretched for a moment before the mayor closed his eyes. I did not lie. When I said Nico Robin shot me. I know, I have people watching the exits of the city for her. If you want, I can station some people here to watch you in case someone tries to finish the job. Unnecessary, Kaku denied quickly. This is our problem, we can handle our president's protection ourselves. Yeah, we don't need your filthy help. You'll probably be the one who will endanger Iceberg instead. Paulie gritted his teeth. Luffy glanced at the two carpenters before nodding slowly, then I will take my leave. Guys, let's go. Chopper packed up his things and gave the carpenters several instructions to take care of Iceberg before following Sanji and Zoro out of the room behind their rear admiral. Passing through the main entrance, they found the large frame tilestone holding back the tide of reporters beside Nami and Usopp. Nami, Usopp, we're done here, let's go, Luffy muttered as he pushed past the swarm of reporters trying to get a statement out from him. Guiding his crew out of the docks, they made their way silently back to the hotel. While walking through the deserted streets, a siren echoed through the city, warning inhabitants of the incoming Aqua Laguna. Zoro raised an eyebrow. Aqua Laguna? Is this city under attack by sea monsters? Luffy closed his eyes once again, listening to the conversations going on in the city with his ability. It's a huge wave that would flood the city's lower districts. Luffy said finally, having trouble piecing all the various information he gathered together while his head still ached. Oh, so it's basically a high tide then? Nami surmised. Aren't our ships in danger then? Usopp asked. Sanji hammered his fist in realization. Oh, remember those steel gates at the dock? I think it's supposed to protect the ships inside from such a thing. Wow, this city is so interesting. Chopper yelled in amazement. Right at that moment, Luffy suddenly froze in his tracks, Chopper stopping beside him a moment later. Robin's scent? Chopper swiveled his head around, searching for their archaeologist. Luffy turned to watch the street opposite them, the waterway in between a good 15 meters across. Robin stepped out from the corner of the street, regarding the Straw Hats with emotionless eyes. Robin-chan. Sanji immediately began to sing. We were so worried about you. Robin. What happened to you? Is someone threatening you? Nami asked. The one who shot Iceberg wasn't you, right? It's an imposter, right? Usopp wiped the sweat off his brow. Robin took a moment to look at each of the Straw Hats in turn, her face unreadable. It's true, the former Baroque Works agent said with finality. You were all fools for trusting a criminal like me. What? What do you mean, Robin? Usopp shivered. A shadow covered her eyes from view. Didn't I already tell you back then, Mr. Longnose? My specialty is assassination. I simply used all of you to achieve my own goals. Now that you have outlived your usefulness, I have no need for you all anymore. The crew were shocked at her words. Luffy had his fists clenched so hard his knuckles had turned white. This is where we part. We will never see each other again. Robin turned her back on them. The situation will worsen and you will take the blame for me. This shall be my goodbye to all of you. The devil child disappeared around the corner, not waiting for a reply. Sanji immediately leapt into the water after her. Zoro had his hand clenched around his sword in a death grip. Nami felt tears spilling past her eyes while Usopp and Chopper stood frozen to the spot, unable to believe what they heard. Luffy felt Robin's presence disappear again, as though she had just vanished from this world without a trace. Just as Sanji pulled himself up on the other side of the street, a horde of Marines converged on them, their weapons raised and pointed at them. Captain Shirenguru stood at the lead, glaring at the rear admiral. What's the meaning of this? Luffy demanded. Shirenguru stepped towards him, a pair of seastone cuffs already prepared in his hands. Monkey D. Luffy, never in my life had I thought the Marine hero's grandson would go rogue. What? All the Straw Hats echoed in unison. The Marine captain tossed a bunch of papers towards them. We found these in your ship. Your orders to Nico Robin to assassinate Iceberg with blueprints of the Galila headquarters attached to them. Were it not for a tip-off we received, we would never have suspected you. Give it up, you are under arrest. The Marines moved in to apprehend their target. Chapter 33, Going Up in Flames. The Marines that surrounded the Straw Hats moved in to capture them, their weapons still drawn. You got to be kidding me. Nami protested, picking up the bunch of papers from the ground. You can't actually believe that we would do such a thing, would you? Unless you really are that dense? Shirenguru frowned. Whether I believe it or not is not important, I have my orders. You can prove your innocence to the judge. Luffy took the papers from Nami, his eyes quickly scanning through his orders. It looked legitimate enough. His own marine seal was stamped clearly at the bottom of the page. Of course, the rest of the crew already knew it was fake without looking at it. Luffy never once bothered to record down his orders to his crew on paper after all. He had always entrusted the troublesome reports to Nami, even giving her his own seal to use, which she had kept in her desk drawer in the women's quarters. That was when realization hit them. The other person who shared the quarters with Nami could have easily found out how the reports were written and officiated, easily faking any of them if she had wished to. But we're your own people. Usopp cried, glaring indignantly at the guns pointed at them. Precisely why I have not given the orders to pin all of you to the ground yet. Besides, I only have orders to arrest Luffy and the Devil Child, not the rest of the crew. So just step aside and let him come quietly with us. Zoro drew one of his swords. Try. The Marines sent to arrest them gulped audibly, their knees starting to shake in fear. Captain Zoro. Stand down. Shirenguru growled. Sanji stepped up beside him. No way we're letting you take him just like that. Guilty until proven innocent, huh? So that's what you're operating on, Nami frowned, twirling her own climatact in an arc. I'm not going to let Skypiea repeat itself here. Usopp gritted his teeth, his slingshot loaded. We won't let you take him. Chopper roared, transforming into his human form. Shirenguru cursed under his breath, men. Capture them. Everyone stand down. Luffy commanded, stopping their movements. He glared hard at the paper as though willing it to vanish from existence. When it did not, he directed his glare to Shirenguru. I will go, but leave my crew alone. Nobody asked you this time, Luffy. Zoro blocked Luffy with an upraised arm. You're trying to take everything on again yourself. You're not leaving us out of this one this time, Sanji huffed. Listen to me, Luffy growled in a voice low enough that only his crew could hear. Robin was lying. I heard her heartbeat speed up when she was talking just now. I still don't know why she would do this, so I want you guys to help me find out her real motives. His crew froze at his words. Usopp leaned closer. What do you want us to do? Stake out Galila, stop Robin from finishing the job. Whatever it takes. What about you? Nami stage whispered. I'll be fine. I'll call Gramps if I have to. When you get the truth from her, you can then release me. Putting me out of the picture must be part of her plan too, just go with it for now. The Straw Hats nodded in unison, sheathing their weapons. Luffy stepped past them, walking up to Shirenguru with his hands raised in front of him to be cuffed. Luffy looked past the captain's goggles to see the slight look of guilt in Shirenguru's eyes as he cuffed him. The rear admiral looked down at his hands, feeling his energy being drained from the sea stone. So that's what it feels like, Luffy mused. No wonder they hated it. If you will follow me, Shirenguru gestured down the path. Luffy turned back and gave his crew a nod, taking the lead towards the marine outpost where he would be confined. The rest of the Straw Hats watched him leave in silence. You know. It just occurred to me that we don't even know about Luffy's history. Usopp muttered. Zoro raised an eyebrow. We don't know about each other's history either. I never thought it was important. That's because there's nothing in that empty head of yours, Sanji commented. Say wa dash. But I have to agree with Marimo. What happened in each of our past is not important. What is important is the present. TCH. Stupid arrow cook. Arg. I swear there's always trouble with him. Why couldn't it be a normal stopover for once? Nami whined, clutching at her hair in frustration. So what do we do now? Chopper asked, poking his hooves together. Everyone turned to look at Sanji, the chef lighting up a cigarette calmly. Taking a long breath, he puffed out the smoke before looking up at the overcast sky. We rescue our dear Robin, of course. The Galila headquarters was surrounded by hordes of shipwrights, all of them armed to the teeth. Even a rat would find trouble trying to slip through the constant guard of the Galila shipwrights, each of them determined to prevent any more threats on their president's life. On a tree a distance away, the Straw Hat Marines sat overlooking the main plaza of the building, hiding from sight. "So why are we hiding up here again?" Zoro yawned. "We can just tell them we're here to protect Iceberg 2. Did you even listen to what I said just now, you damn Marimo?" Sanji spat. Zoro dug his ear with a finger. "If it's the part where you were constantly extolling Robin's virtues, I stopped listening there." A tick mark formed on the chef's forehead, as I was saying. Robin-chan had said we would be blamed for the assassination, so it would be better if we distanced ourselves from Iceberg and only show up to save him after the real assassins revealed themselves. Zoro flicked away the dirt on his fingernail. "You never thought this might be exactly what she's aiming for, you stupid love cook?" Before Sanji could give the swordsman a piece of his mind, an explosion rocked through the Galila compound, throwing debris and dust everywhere. "Well, I was definitely not expecting that," Usopp muttered, focusing his goggles to survey the damage. "Shouldn't we go help them?" Chopper asked, already preparing to jump off their hiding spot. Nami shook her head, spying the compound with her own pair of binoculars. "Let's wait a bit more. That explosion seems like a diversion." The Straw Hats watched on as the carpenters recovered from the explosion, some tending to their wounded while others searched for the cause of the explosion. Soon, shouts were heard and a large group of shipwrights congregated towards the same direction, apparently chasing someone down. "There! Right side of the building. That's Robin!" Usopp shouted, pointing a finger. The rest followed his gaze to see two cloaked figures running from the mob. One of them had donned a large bear mask on his face while the other more feminine figure only had a hood thrown over her head. "Robin-chan, I'm coming!" Sanji yelled, leaping straight off the tree and into the courtyard. "That stupid love cook!" Zoro growled, leaping after him. Nami sighed, preparing to climb down the tree. "I guess we might as well just jump in now. We'll take back Robin!" Chopper yelled, transforming to his human form to follow after his crewmates. Usopp took a second to adjust his goggles before jumping down as well. The Straw Hats leapt over the wall that fenced off the courtyard before running towards the main building. Turning the corner, they spread themselves to block the two assassins' route of escape, an angry mob of carpenters following close behind. Behind the Straw Hats, another group of carpenters arrived, surrounding the two groups in a semicircle against the main building. "What? What are those Marines doing here? Are they here to arrest them? Or are they with them? Robin-chan, your prince is dash." The figure with the bear mask immediately stepped in front of Robin, blocking her from view. "Right on time, comrades," the figure said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'll leave these meddlers to you and continue with our assassination." Before anyone could make sense of what he said, the figure had thrown his cloak over himself and Robin, hiding them from view. Everyone tensed when the cloak floated back down, only to reveal an empty spot at where the two assassins had been before. "What? They're gone. Where did they go? Hey!" He called these Marines their comrades. "They're here to assassinate Iceberg 2. What? Are the Marines responsible for this? I heard it's the Straw Hat unit that's responsible. I saw their commander being arrested for going rogue. Get them!" The Straw Hats barely had time to defend themselves before an angry mob of shipwrights descended on them. "Wait! Those aren't true. We're here to save Iceberg 2. Usopp shouted. "Nice lies. We won't believe a single thing you say." A carpenter shouted back, slashing his saw at the sniper. Usopp ducked underneath the swing, backing away from the angry mob. From beside him, Nami deflected a mallet that was aimed at her head with her new perfect climb attack that Usopp had designed for her. Chopper was in his human form, locked in a contest of strength with a muscular carpenter as they gripped onto each other's hands tightly, pushing against each other. "Well, what do we do now, you arrow cook?" Zoro yelled, his two swords drawn to parry the various swords, knives and saws that flew at him. Sanji kicked his leg up to deflect a wooden log thrown at him. "Damn those criminals. Using poor Robin-chan like that. When I get my hands on them." Will you think about our current situation for just one moment, you stupid dartbrow? They're headed to Iceberg's room, so we should go there as well. Nami advised, smacking a carpenter across the face with her staff. Sanji kicked a few of the carpenters flying away. Nami Swan is right. Usopp. Already on it. Smoke bomb. A cloud of smoke exploded from underneath their feet, engulfing the surrounding area in the cloud. Morimo. Stupid dart brow. Zoro cursed under his breath as he cut the wall of the building, opening up a hole large enough for all of them to pass through. The Straw Hats piled into the building through the hole, Usopp lagging behind to toss a bunch of caltrops on the ground to slow their pursuers after the gas dissipated. Running up the stairs, Sanji led the way towards Iceberg's room, the route to the room still fresh in his mind from his visit before. Turning round a corner, they were met with another group of carpenters that had barricaded the corridor, an assortment of guns held in their hands. Fire! At that command, the carpenters shot their weapons simultaneously, covering the entire width of the corridor with lead. Move! Zoro shoved Sanji away, his three swords spinning wildly in the air to deflect the bullets away. Nami moved behind the swordsman, two parts of her climatact connected together in hand. In such an enclosed space, it's easy to control the airflow. Cyclone tempo. Tossing the climatact, a powerful gale of wind was generated around the staff as it flew towards the group of carpenters. The miniature storm blew into the carpenters, blasting them away towards the end of the corridor to crash into the wall. The projectile curved back in an arc, flying straight towards Nami's hand, who caught it with a flourish. Oi, oi. Isn't that overdoing things a bit? Zoro muttered. The carpenters who were blown away had already been knocked unconscious by the impact of hitting the wall, all of them laying in a crumpled heap on the floor. Even parts of the corridor had torn up from the passing of the climatact, a few sections of the wall beginning to crumble in some places. Nami stuck out her tongue at his comment, running ahead of the group towards Iceberg's room. Usopp shivered at the back as he witnessed the destruction his weapon had inflicted. He wondered briefly how a staff that had initially been intended as a joke turned out to be this powerful. Shaking himself out of his thoughts, he caught up with the rest of his crew, turning round the corner that will lead them towards Iceberg's room. Shit! We're too late! Sanji cursed. The corridor was littered with the unconscious bodies of Galila carpenters. Propped up against the door to Iceberg's room, 3 of the 5 chief mechanics could be seen defeated on the ground. Wait! This guy has a fake nose on him. Chopper pointed out to the Kaku lookalike slumped over in the chair. Nami flipped the suspenders-wearing carpenter over. This isn't the ventriloquist guy either. What's going on? Zoro brandished his blade with a grin, only one way to find out. The door to Iceberg's room was cut into pieces, revealing its interior to the outside. 5 figures stood directly in front of the door with their backs to them. Held in each of their hands were carnival masks that were used to hide their features. In front of them, Polly and Iceberg were currently bound back to back with a tattered pile of blueprints beside them. Iceberg had a strip of cloth bound around his mouth, preventing him from speaking. The 5 turned to see the newcomers, not at all surprised to see them there. Seeing the faces that were undoubtedly Iceberg's assassins, the Straw Hats did a double take. Right on time, Kaku murmured. Hey! Isn't that the secretary, the pigeon guy and long-nosed carpenter? Usopp frowned. That's the bartender I got my sake from too. Zoro nodded towards a broad-shouldered man with his hair styled into distinctive bull horns. Polly strained against his restraints. Straw Hats. Be careful. These guys are going dash. Lucci kicked him across the face before he could finish his words, knocking him out. Iceberg glared at his former employee, the cloth holding his mouth shut. Sanji gritted his teeth, so it was an inside job, huh? Robin! What are you doing with these people? Who are they really? Nami demanded. Robin glanced at her for a moment, her eyes betraying none of her emotions. They are simply part of the organization I belong to, just like crocodiles. Another criminal organization, huh? Zoro gripped his sword tighter. Indeed. As I said, you were all fools to trust a criminal like me. No. Luffy was the fool to welcome me in. He doesn't understand that I was simply using him for my own goals, just like everyone else before him. I knew we should not have trusted you. Zoro pointed a sword at her. This time, even Sanji did not admonish Zoro for his actions. Instead, he glared at the other members of the criminal organization. So I take it you guys are the ones forcing Robin to do this? Califa pushed her glasses up with her hand. How stubborn. Did you not hear from her own mouth that she was already one of us? This is just a job to us, nothing more. So what is it that you guys are after? Usopp asked skeptically. The man with the bull horns on his head tilted his head slightly at them. I do not think we are obliged to tell you anything. Lucci adjusted his hat. Besides, we already have what we came for. Get Robin back! Sanji yelled, jumping towards the assassins. Blueno, Lucci muttered, prompting the large man with bull horns to intercept Sanji. Get out of the way, you damn bull! Sanji yelled, kicking his leg towards his face. Takai! The kick impacted his face without Blueno batting an eyelid, rebounding the kick away without leaving a scratch on him. Zoro slipped past the two towards Robin, not wasting the opportunity presented to him. Saru! Kaku leapt forward to intercept the Marine with a pair of giant chisels slashing down at him. The Marine swordsman slashed out his swords at the last moment, catching the descending blades in midair and pushing against the assassin to pin him in place. Nami moved next, using the opening her crewmates provided to slip towards Robin. Hearing a cracking sound slicing through the air, the navigator lifted her climb attack just in time to catch the whip that Califa threw towards her. Without hesitation, Nami pulled against it, keeping the female assassin stationary in a tug-of-war, effectively immobilizing her in place. Usopp and Chopper rushed in after her, Usopp already brandishing his newly designed kabuto in his hands. Rankyaku! Lucci kicked a blade of air towards them, the blade leaving scars in the ground as it made its way towards the two Marines. Himawari Bashi! 5 explosive bullets flew out in a pentagram shape to explode against the airblade, deflecting it off course to smash against the wall behind Usopp. Chopper reached a hand towards Robin, the archaeologist watching her crew's actions with an impassive face. Saru! Lucci appeared in front of Chopper, with his finger raised in the air. Sure gone. Chopper leapt back before the finger could penetrate his shoulder, dodging the attack by a hair's breadth. The doctor knew the assassin had intentionally held back. If he truly wanted to hit him, Lucci could have attacked him from behind. As much as we would like to kill you right here, we need all of you alive to take the blame for us, Lucci announced regretfully. Robin turned to walk towards the window as though everything did not concern her. I shall be taking my leave first then. Robin! Wait! You still haven't told us why you left yet. Usopp protested. Robin stopped to scowl at the sniper. Didn't I already explain it? I used all of you to reach my goal. I was part of this organization from the start. Even Crocodile was used by me for this organization. Iceberg narrowed his eyes at the archaeologist, but no one else noticed. So it really was you then? The one who forged those documents to frame Luffy? Nami asked, gripping her staff tighter. Yes, it was not that hard since I've already seen how it's been done before. It was a simple matter to just tell the right people the right things to get things going from there. How could you? Luffy trusted you. We trusted you. Usopp yelled. Then your trust was sorely misplaced in someone like me. Don't bother trying to find me anymore. The archaeologist turned back and began walking towards the window again. Where do you think you're going, you damn woman? Zoro cursed through gritted teeth, his blade still in a deadlock with Kaku's. I don't recall having a need to ask you for permission to go anywhere, mister. Swordsman, Robin commented without slowing her steps. No, but you need Luffy's permission. He won't be happy when he finds out your lies. Zoro grinned slightly. Robin hesitated slightly as she stepped on the window frame, her hands gripping tightly on the wood. Don't dally, Robin. The fire has already started. Lucci said offhandedly, blocking her from the Straw Hat's view with his body. Robin nodded once before disappearing into the darkness beyond, never turning back to see the crewmates she had abandoned. Fire? Chopper echoed, startled. It's the easiest way to clean up any form of evidence, Blueno explained with a passive face, leaping back from another of Sanji's kicks. As if on cue, the walls on either side of the room suddenly collapsed, revealing an inferno of flames that rapidly spread itself into the room. Well now, what would you Marines do? Chase us and leave those still in the building to die? Or let us escape to save them? Lucci asked, gesturing towards the unconscious Polly and gagged Iceberg. Ideally, we shall not see each other again, Kaku announced, kicking out his legs at Zoro to break the stalemate. Zoro slashed out his swords to deflect the air blades to the side, falling back to the rest of his crew. Usopp pointed an accusatory finger at him, so that appraisal of our ship is fake too, huh? Califa pulled at her whip, easily untangling her weapon from Nami's climattact. Unfortunately for you, while we were undercover we took our day jobs seriously as well. Kaku nodded regretfully. Your ship is indeed in the state I had told to you. Any other Galila employee will give you the same appraisal. The assassins gathered at the open window, their backs facing the Marines. You think you can just leave like that? Sanji yelled, chasing after them. Rankyaku. Lucci kicked out his leg at the ceiling, sending a burning piece of timber falling towards Iceberg and Polly. Look out! Chopper screamed. Bastards! Sanji cursed, leaping back to kick the timber away from them. When they looked back, the assassins were already gone. The Marine chef rushed towards the window, looking out into the courtyard that was full of panicking carpenters, the assassins nowhere in sight. He banged his fist against the window frame in frustration, turning back to see that Zoro had already undid Iceberg's and Polly's bindings. Zoro tilted his head towards the door. We're going to have to move the carpenters that are still outside as well. Let's move before more of them gets hurt. The Straw Hats agreed, beginning the task of moving the unconscious shipwrights out of the burning building. The other carpenters were still busy trying to put out the fire while the Straw Hats collapsed around the courtyard in exhaustion. Taking that many people out of the burning building only to get assaulted by the waiting carpenters had taken a toll on them. Fortunately, Iceberg managed to defuse the situation by telling them the truth behind the assassination. Chopper busied himself with taking care of the carpenters that need medical attention, barking orders at the other shipwrights to retrieve the items he needed. Iceberg moved to sit among the resting Straw Hats, bandages wrapped tightly around his head and shoulder. I suppose I should be thanking you for saving my life. But I feel that everything was just a setup by all of you, Iceberg muttered, a hint of anger in his voice. A tick mark appeared on Nami's forehead. A setup? For what? Our commander is locked up, our charge betrayed us, and we almost got killed too. What could we possibly gain from this? Iceberg lifted an eyebrow. You mean you don't actually know what they were after? Or even who they really were? Before Nami could pummel him for talking so cryptically, Zoro interjected, they're from the government, aren't they? Criminal organization. What bullshit? Usopp raised an eyebrow, huh? You mean they were lying? Sanji took a puff of his own cigarette. Didn't you notice? The moves they were using were exceedingly similar to Luffy's. Then they were Marines as well? Nami asked. Unlikely, Zoro snorted with disdain. Marines don't do undercover work like this. That leaves us with Cypher Pauls. Iceberg finished for him. The intelligence unit directly in the employ of the world government. No wonder they didn't actually try to kill us. Usopp muttered. That Lucci guy had been holding back. Nami gasped, doesn't that mean Luffy is one of them? Sanji shrugged, who knows, it's only clear that Luffy has the same skills as they do, but for all we know every other Marine officer is trained in those as well. What we can confirm though is that they aren't just a criminal organization like Robin claims. Luffy had said that she was lying too. But about what? Usopp wondered, scratching his chin. Nami frowned, what can they be after? The Straw Hats looked at each other, drawing blank looks. I have the answer to that. Iceberg sighed, convinced that the Marines in front of him were victims of this incident and not just actors putting on an elaborate show for him. Flashback. Iceberg pointed the pistol he had hidden underneath his shirt at Robin, his left shoulder was bleeding and he was barely holding himself up on the floor with his free hand. Robin in turn pointed 4 pistols at him from underneath her cloak, 2 arms sprouting out from her sides using her powers. The other assassins were busy with either distracting the carpenters or retrieving the blueprints, leaving Robin to watch over the supposedly helpless Iceberg alone. "You will never get the blueprints," Iceberg huffed defiantly. "I will not allow anyone to use it to create a weapon to destroy the world." Robin stared at him, not saying a word. "When I saw that the Straw Hats had put you under their protection, I feared for the worst, that the government had already secured your cooperation in deciphering those ancient texts. To think you were working for a criminal organization. Things are worse than I thought." "I'm only interested in history," Robin replied him with an impassive face. "You expect me to believe that after what happened with the O'Hara Devils?" Robin narrowed her eyes. "You know nothing about O'Hara." "Perhaps." Iceberg wheezed painfully. "But I know what the world government did to them. Is this a form of revenge against them?" "You have no idea what you are talking about." Iceberg tightened his grip on his pistol. "Then why else would you? Ugh. Be working for a criminal organization to steal these blueprints?" Robin sighed internally, reminding herself that the cover story was that they were part of a criminal organization unrelated to the government. She glanced at the door behind her, using her powers to sprout an eye to spy on Blueno clearing the corridor of carpenters. She turned back to Iceberg before lowering her guns. "I had no choice." Iceberg raised an eyebrow but kept his gun pointed at her. "Either my friends were branded as traitors and assassinated, or I turned myself over to them." Robin crossed her arms and a few hands sprouted around Iceberg, pulling him back into a submission pose and forcing him to drop his gun. "I could abandon them like the rest. Like what I have been doing for all these years. But they showed me a side of the Marines that I never knew, gave me faith in the world when I had none. They had done so much more for me than I rightly deserved. I do not wish to burden them anymore." Iceberg gritted his teeth as he glared at Robin. "You're talking about the Straw Hats?" Robin nodded. "Don't you think it's foolish? I am already a wanted criminal, and yet that Rear Admiral protects me as though I'm innocent. He fought for me when others would fight against me. But now my existence is a threat to the things he desires to protect. So if I had to choose between my own survival or theirs, I'll give myself up instead." "Your solution is to join a criminal organization and help them awaken these weapons? How would that save them?" "They are trained assassins." Robin narrowed her eyes. "They threatened me with the lives of my crewmates. First would be the navigator. Then the doctor. Then our sniper. They would kill them when they were most vulnerable, implant information that will cause my protector's career to go up in flames. I am nothing but a burden to them. In return for your crew's safety, you're dooming the world." Iceberg roared. Robin sniffed. "I do not care about that." Iceberg's eyes widened in shock at her words. "What has the world ever done for me? I have received nothing but hate and scorn everywhere I went simply because of my desire and knowledge. But for them, they took me in and protected me without hesitation. I would sacrifice the world to save them without a second thought." Iceberg scowled. "Do you think that after these weapons are awakened your Rear Admiral may not be involved in the destruction they will cause?" Robin looked into the distance sadly. "That is a problem for the future. If I do not do this now, they may not even have a future." Iceberg frowned. "Last I heard, that Rear Admiral was framed for my attempted assassination and locked up." Robin nodded. "He is strong. We needed him out of the picture. I would reveal the truth much later and clear him of his crimes before they can launch a proper investigation. By then I would be too far gone for him to chase me, allowing them to continue as Marines without me." "Why are you telling me this then? Are you not afraid? I will reveal everything to them?" Robin lifted one of her pistols to point at him. "You are meant to die today. After we get what we are here for, we will end your life and blame it on the Marines when they show up." "That's where you're wrong." Iceberg gave a mocking smile at the woman. "The blueprints you will find here are fake." Robin's eyes widened just as the den mushy on her wrist rang. Lucci's voice sounded from the other end of the snail. Don't kill Iceberg, there's been some complications. Meet up inside his room. Robin frowned at the news before lowering herself beside the mayor, grabbing his collar. What did you do? Nothing that you need to know, Iceberg spat. I think I prefer you being under the straw hats now. You will not tell them anything. Try me. Robin pulled out a strip of cloth from behind her, her hands working furiously to gag the mayor before the other assassins show up. Soon, Blueno, Califa, Lucci and Kaku had turned up while carrying a desperately struggling Polly, the fake blueprint in Lucci's hands. All of them had removed their masks before entering, no reason to hide their identities any further. Iceberg's eyes widened when he saw their faces, finally realizing that he had been played from the start. The assassins raised an eyebrow at Iceberg's gagged form, sending questioning glances at Robin. He talks too much, Robin explained offhandedly. All of them nodded as though they understood, a minuscule amount of sympathy in their eyes. Ignoring the cursing Polly, Lucci dumped the carpenter beside him and showed the fake blueprints to Iceberg. Without prompting, Kaku took position beside the mayor to feel his pulse with a hand. Robin listened to Lucci's theory about Cutty Flam dispassionately, not even batting an eyelid when Frankie was revealed to be the one holding the blueprints. But when Lucci announced that they were done here, Robin looked at the assassin questioningly. Aren't you going to kill him? Lucci glanced at the archaeologist. A change of plans, they are more useful to us alive. The Straw Hats will be too busy saving them from the fire to pursue us. We'll slip out to get Frankie and they'll lose us in the commotion. Robin felt her blood run cold, her eyes spotting the slight look of triumph in Iceberg's eyes. She had to leave as soon as she could. That was when the door was cut into pieces. So Robin did not betray us after all? Usopp gulped. Nami wiped away the tears that had spilled out from the corners of her eyes. How can she do something so silly? I knew Robin-chan wouldn't do something like that. Sanji yelled out. So what do we do now? Zoro asked, arms crossed in front of his chest. We get her back, of course. Nami clenched both her fists in determination. The Marine swordsman snorted, and do you even know where they are right now? Nami faltered. It was nearly impossible for them to find Robin in such a huge city by themselves. If they are who we think they are, they should be taking the sea train tonight. Iceberg supplied. The Straw Hats turned to look at him. The Aqua Laguna prevents any ships from sailing out of here. If they wish to leave the city tonight, it will have to be on the sea train. Then we will go stop the train and save Robin-chan. Sanji roared with fire in his eyes. What about Luffy? Are we going to leave him locked up? Usopp asked. How long before the train leaves? Nami asked. Iceberg fished out a pocket watch from his jacket. I believe in another half an hour. What? We have no time to waste then. We'll stop Robin first, then get Luffy back. Whatever it takes. Sanji declared with finality. The Straw Hats immediately prepared to move, picking up a confused Chopper on the way out. Meanwhile, at the place where the Frankie house once stood, only a pile of debris remains. Califa stepped on one of the scrappers, looking down at him with disdain. Blueno held one of the Kairiki destroyers by his neck, dropping him onto the ground after confirming that the scrapper had already lost consciousness. Kaku stood amidst a throng of unconscious bodies, his giant chisels dripping with blood. Frankie gritted his teeth as he tried to push himself up on his feet, blood dripping down the various cuts on his face. Lucci stepped on his back and pushed him back down. Now, do you feel more cooperative, Cutty Flam? I have no idea who that person is. Frankie spat, glaring at Lucci with hate-filled eyes. And I don't know what those blueprints you want are. You can continue lying to me, but we already know you are the real thing. Since we're running short on time, we'll be taking you back to Eni's lobby for interrogation. Lucci kicked him across the face to knock him out before stepping away from the scrapper. Califa immediately moved up to tie and bag him, handing him over to Blueno to carry back to the sea train. Confirmed that their package was secured, the 4 assassins leapt into the air, moving across the rooftops of the city towards the train station. "Hey," Blueno called out from the back. "Is it really alright to frame those Marines like that?" "It can't be helped, it's orders from above after all. They will be cleared of their names eventually," Kaku replied with a passive face. "What I want to know though." Califa adjusted her glasses with a hand. "Why did our boss give specific instructions to restrict their commander without confrontation as the highest priority?" Kaku shrugged, "Who knows? I think we already fulfilled all the requirements for the mission by locking him up." Blueno raised an eyebrow. "What about his crew?" "Not important," Lucci said offhandedly. "Our orders did not say what to do with them, so we'll leave them alone." The other 3 assassins nodded just as the train station came into view. In the courtyard of the station, a large number of government agents and Marines were gathered, all standing at attention as the 4 agents landed amidst them. "Thank you for your hard work," the crowd echoed out in unison. Corgi steps beside the CP9 agent. "Mr. Lucci, Nico Robin is already secured on board. If you would like, I can dash." "Cut the formalities, we're on a tight schedule." Lucci waved his hand in an arc. "Leave once everyone is on board. We shall not dally on this island any longer." The assassins boarded the train through a chorus of affirmatives. "That's the station, just head down the stairs at the middle entrance." Polly pointed just as the Straw Hats hopped out from their own Yagura bulls. Nami rushed at the front, almost tripping down the stairs while the rest followed closely behind her. "Damn it, Robin! Who do you think you are, deciding things like this yourself?" Nami shouted out. "You think we can't handle a few assassins ourselves?" "Angry Nami is cute too," Sanji sang aloud. Running through the empty courtyard and past the deserted ticket counters, the Marines find themselves standing at the edge of a platform devoid of NEC trains. 2 station masters at the end of the platform rush towards them, both of them wearing the same clothes but with contrasting body shapes. "Oh dear!" the pudgy station master cried out in alarm. "Are you Marines meant to board the sea train? I thought for sure everyone was accounted for." The thinner station master spreaded his arms out in a placating manner. "Forgive us, dear sirs and madam, but the sea train meant for Eni's lobby has already left about 5 minutes ago. You'll have to wait for the next one tomorrow." "We were too late." Zoro frowned, not showing any indication of hearing the station masters. Polly caught up to them, already deducing what happened from the empty platform. "I guess we were too slow, huh? Once the sea train leaves, it won't stop until it reaches its destination." Polly sighed. "A ship," Nami muttered, looking out at the sea. Near the horizon, the blurry form of the sea train could still be seen puffing away. "Give us a ship strong enough to go through Aqua Laguna," Nami yelled, turning towards Polly. Polly furrowed his brows. "Don't ask for the impossible, shameless girl. If there was such a ship, we won't need to coop ourselves up every time Aqua Laguna comes around. The waves are just too violent for any ship to survive out there." "So it's because of the waves, huh? Then we can just fly over them." Nami clenched her fists. "What? What kind of ship can fly dash? The Ark? We're going to need Luffy for that." Sanji lit another cigarette. "But he's still a suspect of the assassination," Usopp reminded them. Zoro showed a grin as he unclasped his sword. "We're breaking him out." But wouldn't that make us criminals too?" Chopper poked his hooves together in worry. "We can worry about the details later," Sanji declared. "Our charge is being taken from us, there's no way we'll just sit still and let that happen." Zoro glanced at him. "Wasn't it you who said not to break the rules? Now a maiden is in danger, rules can be bent for that." Zoro resisted the urge to face palm. "Then let's go get Luffy out of there," Nami declared with finality. The rest nodded, rushing back towards the Yagura bulls to head towards the outpost. Polly watched them go with disbelief, wondering how these Marines never seemed to be fazed by anything that hindered their path. His brows furrowed as he made up his mind on what he should do, running out of the station after them. A contingent of Marines barred their way at the outpost, Captain Shiringiru standing at the front with his arms crossed. "We're here to see our commander," Sanji announced to the Marine captain. "Denied, orders from above that you are to have no contact with him until his trail." Sanji gritted his teeth, while Zoro unsheathed his swords. "We are not asking," Zoro smirked, holding his two swords by his side. The Marines behind Shiringuru paled, realizing the impending doom that would descend upon them soon enough. "You would raise your hands against a fellow Marine? You'll be branded as traitors." "What are you talking about?" Usopp grinned, though the smile did not reach his eyes. "A freak storm passed through this Marine outpost and blew everyone away. We are just coming to check whether the outpost is still secure. It's a shame that the prisoner was blown away during the storm as well." Before Shiringuru could ask what he meant, Zoro and Nami had already done the necessary preparations. Tatsumaki Cyclone Tempo. A giant tornado materialized in front of Shiringuru, crashing through the ranks of Marines and throwing them in every direction. Even Shiringuru was not spared as he flew high up into the air before crashing headfirst onto the pavement nearby, a lump growing out from where he had hit his head. Rushing past the unconscious Marines, the Straw Hats made their way towards the outpost, kicking open the doors that led to the holding cells. Moving deeper in, Nami snatched up a bunch of keys that had been left hanging on the wall before leading the way down a flight of stairs. The sound of laughter could be heard from within, echoing from the far corner of the holding area. Moving through the dimly lit corridor, the Straw Hats found the conductor Kokoro seated on a stool with her granddaughter and cat beside her. The old woman took another swig of her rum before setting it down with a chuckle. "You put a lot of faith in the crew of yours, huh?" "She. Of course. I trust them with my life." Hearing the sounds of hurried footsteps, Chimney turned to see the Straw Hats running towards them. "Oh look! Marine brother is right. They're here." Chimney waved at them enthusiastically. Stopping in front of the cell, they spot Luffy seated on the floor in front of the bars casually, a pair of sea stone handcuffs on his wrist. "How did you get in here?" Nami asked the conductor. "What? A civilian visiting a friend shouldn't be a problem, right?" Kokoro huffed. Sanji frowned. "The order must have been to prevent only us from reaching Luffy then." "But why?" Luffy grinned at them. "So everything's fine now, right? Robin's back on the ship or something?" Everyone shook their heads. "Luffy. She was taken," Nami explained, unlocking his cell door with the keys. "Huh? I thought. You mean that Kaku and Lucci didn't help?" The crew raised an eyebrow at his question. "Luffy, they were part of the group that took her. We still don't know who they really are or what they are after," Usopp explained. Kneeling beside the rear admiral, Nami sifted through the keys to find the right one for his wrist cuffs. "They're taking her to Eni's lobby through the sea train. We're using the Ark to chase after her. Iceberg told us that Robin was threatened by them to turn herself in, where they will start killing us one by one. Then implant some kind of information that will drop you out of the Marines," Zoro muttered as he crossed his arms in distaste. Luffy did not move even when the cuffs were off his wrists, anger clear in his eyes. Everyone took a step back as they felt the air chill noticeably, their bodies shivering uncontrollably at the sudden burst of killing intent. The rear admiral picked up the sea stone cuffs from the ground, careful to not touch the sea stone linings on the inside. C.P.9. Luffy crushed the sea stone cuffs in his hands, electrical sparks flying off his hand. A loud explosion of thunder resounded nearby, shaking the entire outpost from the shockwave. "Luffy, calm down, we can still go after them with the Ark," Nami soothed, reaching out a hand to hold his arm reassuringly. Luffy reined in his anger slightly, releasing the crushed pieces of sea stone from his hand. "Nagagaga. Is this Ark the partially scrapped ship at the docks outside?" Kokoro laughed. The Straw Hats paled, realizing they had given the Frankies the go-ahead to begin scrapping of the ship the day before. The crew rushed out of the holding cell with Kokoro laughing behind them, finding the Ark already disassembled in various places. In its current condition, the ship was in no way seaworthy, much less flightworthy. Usopp hung his head dejectedly. "What do we do now?" "I'll fly there." Luffy looked towards the sky. "I don't suppose you know which direction to even fly in?" The tracks are underwater so you can't follow that while flying either. Nami pointed out. Luffy furrowed his brows, his mind coming up blank on ideas. The sounds of shouting could be heard from the entrance to the outpost. The crew turned to see the Frankie family running towards them, Zambai leading the horde. Oh, thank gods. Marine bros. You have to help us. Zambai pleaded. Some guys wearing suits came to attack us and kidnapped bro Frankie. They kept asking him for some blueprint that we didn't have, the girl with the curly square hair, Kiwi, explained. You have to help us. Marines help people, right? The other square sister, Mozu, begged. As much as we would like to help. The only way to chase them was scrapped by you guys. Usopp pointed at the half-scrapped ark. Ugh. If that's the case. We still have the materials. If we put it back, can you go after them? Zambai pleaded. No offense but. Seeing the condition of the house you live in. I do not trust in your construction skills, Sanji pointed out. The Frankies lowered their heads, knowing firsthand how bad their building skills were. So you're saying that ship can pass through Aqua Laguna? Maybe it was worth getting these guys involved after all. A voice sounded from behind. Everyone turned to see the last three chief mechanics of Galila holding onto their tools. You guys have the blueprint, right? Polly stretched out a hand. Give us 5 minutes and we'll get the ship back in working order. So fast. Chopper looked at them with awe. You can do that? Usopp yelled out in surprise. Tilestone flexed his muscles. Who do you think we are, huh? We're not the chief mechanics of Galila for nothing. Sanji raised an eyebrow, but why help us? Lulu pushed down the strand of hair that was sticking out at the side of his head. These guys dare to hurt Iceberg and burn down our headquarters. We'll show them what happens when they mess with us. Oh. We'll come with you to get our bro back too. We'll fight alongside you guys. Our names aren't feared for nothing. Zambai roared, prompting the other Frankies to raise war cries of their own. Luffy reached underneath his cloak to toss a pile of blueprints towards Zambai. Get it ready, then we'll set sail immediately. Polly gave a mock salute at the rear admiral before leading the way towards the ark. Kokoro appeared from within the outpost, the bottle of rum in her hands. I don't suppose y'all let an old woman like me along? Zoro narrowed his eyes. Now why would you want to go with us? Nagagaga. The organization ya after once hurt people I cared about as well. Besides, I know exactly where the tracks go. If you need a guide to where it leads, I'm your woman. How are you so sure? Usopp asked skeptically. Of course Grandma is sure. She worked alongside the man who built it. Chimney cheered proudly. Luffy nodded in understanding. We'll be counting on you then. Nagagaga. Not a problem. The rear admiral turned to look at his crew's expectant eyes. Let's take Robin back. On the grounds of Eni's lobby, there is a small patch of land behind the main building. There, a small birch tree grew over a gravestone. The name Olivia could be seen etched on it. The gravestone was obviously not well taken care of, with cracks and ivy coiling around it and the grass overgrown at its base. The flowers that had been left on it had also long wilted and a layer of dust accumulated on the top. Jabra stood unmoving in front of the gravestone, his eyes looking down at it emotionlessly. The wolfman gave a long sigh. Well, it's been a while. If things go as planned, you won't see your beloved senpai here. As much as I would like to see that little fool again, I definitely don't want him to come here under these circumstances. He glanced up at the branches of the birch tree, spotting a pair of birds that had built its nest on it. Jabra gave a wry smile before continuing. I know how much you hate that boss of ours, but this time the fault doesn't fully fall on him. He didn't know this Robin girl was under your senpai's protection until he accepted the order after all, and you know how much of a glory hound he is. He looked back down at the gravestone while crossing his arms. Now I would like to stay and chat, but I heard that stupid cat is coming back soon. You never did have a chance to meet the rest of the team either, did you? Maybe you can take this opportunity to dash. The assassin was viciously kicked from behind, sending him crashing headfirst into the gravestone with a loud bang. The momentum flipped the assassin over the gravestone before sending him sprawling on the floor on his face. I admit it might be amusing the first few times. But don't you think it's getting a bit too old? Jabra groaned as he looked back at his attacker, the auburn-haired girl waving an angry fist at him while her leg was still outstretched from kicking him. She was still as short as she was 2 years ago, her long auburn hair still tied up in the neat ponytail that she had preferred. But where her once piercing blue right eye was, a black eye patch now took its place, covering part of the large scar that ran from her left temple to her right cheek. On her neck, another scar could also be seen, though this one was so clean that it could be easily missed if one did not look properly. You little pipsqueak! How dare you kick me? Can't you treat your own gravesite with a little bit more respect? Jabra yelled indignantly. Olivia huffed as she crossed her arms. Just because I went missing for a few months, you useless bums had presumed me as dead and made a grave for me. Furthermore, you even got Luffy-senpai transferred out and forbid any news of my survival to reach him. So sorry not sorry that I'm not particularly in an affable mood on my own grave, you stupid dog. Oh, shut up. Jabra pointed a finger at her. You think you're big now just because your Doriki is higher, huh? You're still tiny and he will never acknowledge. Olivia cracked her knuckles. Say any more and I'll break something on you, mongrel. Jabra gritted his teeth before stomping past her, fuming internally. It used to be amusing to see her reactions when they mocked her at her gravesite, but she had recently grown less tolerant of it. And if I know anything about Luffy-senpai. Olivia turned her head to smirk at Jabra. He will come. Jabra shivered slightly before walking out of sight. Confirming his exit, Olivia looked down at the fist she had involuntarily clenched. And when he does, he will pay. Chapter 34, Shadow of the Past. On the deck of the Ark, Polly unfurled a section of the Ark's blueprints, explaining it to the only person that could control it while his crew crowded around him. Tilestone and Lulu were making the final checks on the ship, making sure that everything was in working order. The Frankies were busy with loading their weapons on board, including their 2 king bulls, Sodom and Gomorrah. Kokoro was busy inhaling a bottle of rum in a corner of the deck, not paying attention to the scene in front of her. Polly pointed to a certain part of the blueprint. This is the part where it generates the storm clouds, so avoid sending electricity to it unless you want storm clouds hanging over us. Luffy nodded, Polly's words going in one ear and out the other. So as long as you avoid this part, you can just send your electricity through every other circuitry on the ship. Luffy clapped his hands together. Got it. Send electricity into the ship and it'll fly. Polly face-palmed as he failed to explain the ship's controls to him for the umpteenth time. Before anyone could stop him, Luffy had already hopped on top of the throne, sitting down on it to place both his hands on the orb-shaped conductors. With just a thought, a thick stream of electricity flowed down his arms and into the orbs, sending it through the circuits throughout the rest of the ship. Through the electrical currents, Luffy had a clearer picture of the internal workings of the Ark than the blueprints had shown him. An odd sense of euphoria filled him as the various machines within the Ark whirred into motion, powered by the electricity he was emitting. It felt like he had fused with the Ark, himself as the heart of the ship that pumped life to the ship's core. The Rear Admiral realized with a grin that instructing him on how to control the ship was unnecessary when the ship moved according to his will. With just a thought, the paddles began rotating and the giant Ark lurched forward to sail out of the harbor. Crashing into the open seas, everyone on board marveled at the violent waves that rocked against the side of the Ark. Had they attempted to sail with a normal ship, it would have no doubt capsized by now. With another thought, the propellers of the Ark immediately began turning, generating the lift needed to carry the Ark into the air. Slowly but surely, the Ark began lifting itself upwards, floating free of the sea and up into the air above the waves. Never thought in my life I would find myself on a flying ship. Lulu remarked, leaning on the railing to look at the seas descending further away from him. Polly smirked, I wonder if we can build one of our own in the future? Ha ha. President Icebird will surely design one for sure. Tilestone laughed heartily. I guess that lightning bastard was useful in some way after all, Zoro smirked. Sanji glanced back at Luffy sitting on the throne. I bet he never thought someone will take over his spot though. We're flying! We're flying! Chopper yelled out in excitement. You guys better not break anything, we still need this ship intact for the gold. Nami warned. Oh Luffy! Usopp called out. I forgot to tell you, I told them to move the jet dials to the aft of the Ark. It'll give us speed, but that means without the propellers and your powers, this ship won't stay in the air. Luffy grinned at the news. All of the jet dials? Usopp nodded affirmatively. Nami raised an eyebrow. Don't you think having all 200 jet dials as boosters is a little excessive? Before Usopp could reply, Luffy had already redirected the energy needed to activate the jet dials. The world went silent for a few moments as the jet dials blasted out their payload all at once. Everyone on the deck was thrown backwards as the ship accelerated forward suddenly, leaving the city of Water 7 a speck in the horizon in an instant. I told you, ooh! Nami screamed, clinging onto the railing for dear life as the rest of the crew tumbled around her. Luffy! Slow it down a little, will you? Sanji yelled, barely avoiding falling off the Ark at the last second. Shishishi! Sorry! Sorry! Luffy laughed, decreasing the jet dial's output until the ship reached a bearable speed. I thought I was going to die. Zambai groaned as he massaged where his head had hit the mast. The rest of the passengers managed to get themselves back on their feet without any serious injuries. Deciding it was a good idea to keep an eye on the only person capable of controlling the ship, everyone gathered in front of Luffy. I know it's a bit late to ask this now. Mozu began. But where exactly are we going? And who are the people who attacked us? Kiwi finished. Yar! I would like to know that too. Tilestone bellowed. Usopp raised an eyebrow. You mean you guys followed us without even knowing who we're up against? Lulu adjusted his spectacles with a hand. We already have our own suspicions, but I think it's better if we hear the truth directly from you. Nami rested her chin on her palm. Well, you might have guessed. Those assassins were actually Cypher Pole agents from the government and were headed towards Enies lobby. They abducted our charge as well, and that's why we're chasing them. Polly nodded, and you probably guessed since they went missing suddenly. But the identities of those four happens to be Blueno, Califa, Kaku, and Lucci. The Frankies, Tilestone, and Lulu all lowered their heads as thought they had expected such an answer. Without warning, all of them suddenly shot upwards in surprise, clearly shocked beyond words at the revelations. What? Who else were you expecting? Polly yelled at them incredulously. Michael and Hoichel? Tilestone supplied. Who the heck are they? Polly yelled in disbelief. Zambai starts panicking, but... If we're going to Enies lobby, isn't that a government island? You guys are Marines. Wouldn't this be a bad thing for you? Luffy grinned from where he sat. Don't worry about that. Someone told me about a nice thing I can find there. Everyone looked at him with raised eyebrows. Well, I'll deal with it when the time comes. Anyway, the Gorosei would most probably cover up this incident anyway. If we lose, we're branded traitors. But if we win, they'll have to do the same to CP9 to cover up their mistake. They need to make themselves look perfect after all, Shishishi. Well, if you're sure. Zambai muttered mostly to himself. Speaking of CP9. I thought the cipher poles only numbered 1 to 8? How do you know about CP9? Is it because of your rank? Sanji asked. Luffy grimaced, no. It's because I was once part of them. Everyone's eyes widened considerably at the unexpected revelation. Before they could question him further, Usopp gave a shout of surprise, gathering everyone's attention on him. Whoa! What's with that huge wave up ahead? Usopp shouted. All eyes turned to the front of the Ark where a giant wave was crashing towards them. The Ark floated a little below the crest, but at the speed it was going it would not be able to scale it before the wave reaches them. What the? Aqua Laguna isn't meant to be this huge. Polly gasped. Luffy! Nami shouted in alarm. Luffy just grinned back at her, Shishishi. No time, Nami. If the jet dials were still below we might make it, but with just the propellers alone we won't be able to rise fast enough. Blast a hole for the ship to pass through. Zambai ordered, prompting the scrappers to pick up their own armaments. All of them gathered on the deck of their ship, aiming their guns at the giant wave rushing towards them. Fire! 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 Tilestone fired off the demi-cannon he held in his hand while the other scrappers shot out their own bazookas. The resulting explosions barely did anything to the wave, further amplifying the hopelessness of the situation. It's impossible. Even if we can blast a hole, the ark's too big to fit. We're gonna die. One of the scrappers cried out. Luffy looked at his crew with an amused smile. Need my help? Zoro tied his bandana securely around his head. Just sit tight over there. Sanji tapped his foot on the ground. It's high time we did something too. Luffy only gave them a nod as the two of them made their way towards the prow of the ship, eyes staring straight at the giant wave without an ounce of fear. So you mastered it yet? Zoro asked, unsheathing his swords. Sanji frowned. Not yet, I still can't kick fast enough. But it's no problem if I have time to prepare for an opponent like this. Zoro lowered himself as he held all three swords horizontally above his shoulder. Don't miss then. Same to you, Sanji remarked as he got down on his hands, spinning himself faster and faster. Once Sanji's spinning form became a blur, Zoro tensed his muscles as he prepared to lash out with his attack as well. Sanbyaku Pound Rankyaku Cannon. Zoro slashed out his swords to create the giant air bullets while Sanji kicked out his leg to create a giant air blade. Both types of projectiles collided in the same spot, blasting a giant hole in the wave from the ensuing explosion. The Frankies and Galila carpenters' jaws dropped in shock. They blasted a hole. Everyone yelled out. What is this? Is this the strength of a marine captain? How strong is their rear admiral then? The Straw Hats are amazing. These guys are really something else. Now I feel with these guys on our side, we can rescue our bro with no problems. Nagagaga. Impressive indeed. The Ark flew through the hole safely, Luffy grinning at his two crewmates as both of them gave him a thumbs up. Nothing will stop us from saving Robin. Chopper roared. All right. Let's charge straight through. Nami cheered. Robin, we're coming for you. Usopp shouted out. Meanwhile, on the first carriage of the Puffing Tom, Robin sat alone in the spacious carriage while looking out the window with dispassionate eyes. As her eyes stared at the waves crashing past the sea train, the archaeologist's mind wandered somewhere else. That night in Alabasta, where she had finally found the poneglyph, the night when she had already gave up hope. She had spent years trying to uncover the true history with nothing to show for it, and that poneglyph was the last straw. She had fully expected herself to die that day, the knife she had prepared beforehand hidden underneath her cloak. But even her death was denied from her by the man that came crashing into her life like a hurricane. A Marine, of all people, saved her life. She had been running away from the same kind of people for years, and it was ironic she came under the protection of one. At first she had kept them at an arm's length, carefully observing them from afar. She was not that naive to think that Luffy held no malicious intent for her, no matter how eloquent he was in professing his will to protect her. But the only thing she found while among them was happiness. Luffy had wrapped the crew together like a family, no one treated her any different because of her background. Heck, she even doubted anyone else knew of her history among the crew. For the first time in years, she actually felt safe enough to let her guard down. But that had resulted in the present, where she had to choose between her new friends and her own survival. It had been an easy choice with the past groups she had sought refuge with. She used them and left them in the dust when they had fulfilled their purpose, her own survival outweighing any feelings she might have felt for them. But when the same choice was presented for the Straw Hats, she found herself unable to move. Even though the logical side of her dictated that she should abandon them like before, her moral side could not agree with that. A beacon of hope in a hopeless world, there was no way she would let that burn out for her selfishness. In the end, she chose to sacrifice herself for them. It was the least she could do for all the things they had done for her. Robin knew that Luffy was strong, but she thought even he could not deal with a threat that hides in the shadows. Now it was too late for the Straw Hats to do anything. Even if Iceberg managed to tell them the truth, they would not be able to chase her without another sea train with the Ark out of commission. The door to her carriage opened with a clack, bringing her out of her own musings. The archaeologist looked up to see Corgi walking towards her, his lips pulled into a thin line. "Is everything all right, Nico Robin? Do you need anything? A drink, perhaps?" Corgi asked. Robin raised an eyebrow. "No. I'm fine, thank you." Corgi nodded before jerking a thumb towards the end of the carriage. "There's refreshments at the table there, help yourself if you want anything. We'll be reaching Eni's lobby in a few more minutes." Now Robin was even more perplexed at his attitude. "If you don't mind me asking, why are you being so courteous with me?" The government agent huffed, furrowing his brows. "I'm only doing this out of respect for Mr. Luff. I mean Rear Admiral Luffy, since you were under his protection and all. There's no way I'll let him find out that you were mistreated while under our watch." Robin narrowed her eyes. Corgi's answer had raised more questions instead. "I don't recall the Marines having authority over the Cypher Pauls. What does he have to do with you all?" Corgi's eyes widened before bursting into laughter without warning. "Ah! I see. I see. I had thought that you knew. Well, color me surprised." The person who had a thirst for uncovering secrets actually didn't uncover her own protector's secrets. Robin frowned. She did do her research on Luffy, but all she found was his relation with Garp and the various commendations he received during his last 4 years of service. Though it was intriguing that the records showed he had not been active in his second year, she had assumed he had been pulled back from the front lines for reasons unknown. "Well, this is interesting," Corgi smirked. "Since there's no harm in telling you, mister. Ahem. Rear Admiral Luffy was once a member of CP9. Robin's eyes widened in shock at his words. She could not picture the carefree Rear Admiral to be part of an assassination group in her wildest dreams. "And here's something else interesting for you," Corgi laughed as he stepped towards the door to leave the carriage. "During his time, he was the most liked and feared member. I'll leave the rest to your imagination." The door closed with a crack, leaving Robin alone in the carriage once more. The archaeologists thought back to the divine soldiers they found on Skypiea. The efficiency of how each one was dispatched became an obvious indication Corgi was telling the truth. Suddenly her plan to sacrifice herself did not seem so well thought out after all. Back on the deck of the Ark, Zambai and Lulu were pointing both their fists forward with determined expressions on their faces. "Sanbyaku pound Rankyaku cannon. Ah! Aqua Laguna got destroyed." Tilestone, Chopper, Kiwi, Mozu, Chimney and Gonbi yelled out with their hands in the air comically. "Can't you guys be serious for a minute?" Sanji roared. Lulu and Zambai picked their nose casually. "We have time." "Then go sharpen your blades or something." Zoro shook his fist at them. "Wait. Chimney. Gonbi. When did you follow us aboard?" Kokoro screamed. Chimney scratched her head. "Ah! Right from the start? Gonbi and I got lost inside the ship." Before Kokoro can decide whether it was a good idea to turn back, Usopp pointed towards the prow of the ship while yelling for everyone's attention. "There's an area the storm seems to be passing around ahead." Nami stepped beside him, spotting the circular hole in the clouds with a ray of light shining down on an island. "Wasn't it still night time when we left?" Nami frowned. Luffy furrowed his brows while still sitting on the throne, his straw hat shadowing his eyes. "Get ready guys, Eni's lobby is just up ahead." On the judicial island that was otherwise known as Eni's lobby, a man with distinctly wild lavender hair was laughing madly at his desk while holding a glass of wine in his hand. "Wahahaha! I can't believe it. Those guys managed to do it. That devil child and the blueprints to the ancient weapon will arrive in no time. And that Luffy is out of the picture too. Wahahaha!" Jabra rolled his eyes at his chief's antics while seated on the couch in front of the director's desk. On his left were his other two colleagues, Komodori and Fukuro. "Now once Nico Robin is sent through the gates, I don't hold any responsibility anymore. Even if Luffy finds out about it, he'll direct his ire at that stupid Akaina who gave the order instead. This is perfect. Wahahaha. A knock was heard on the door before a government agent entered, saluting to the director. Chief Spandam, sir. Mr. Rob Lucci and company have arrived with the prisoners. Spandam laughed even louder than before, setting his wine glass on the table. Wahaha. Show them in. Lucci walked in with Kaku, Blueno and Califa following behind, leaving the prisoners outside under the watchful eyes of the guards. It's been a while. Sir. Lucci greeted monotonously. Wah-aha. You're all back. It's been 5 years since the old group has been together. Ignoring his superior's words, Lucci delivered his report with an impassive face. Wanted 8 years ago for assaulting government agents, Cutty Flam. Wanted 20 years ago for attacking marine battleships, Nico Robin. They are waiting just outside. Jabra took the opportunity to turn around to smirk at him. Long time no see, Lucci. Looks like that arrogant mug of yours hasn't changed a bit. Lucci glanced at the wolfman. I see that stupid look of yours hasn't changed either, Jabra. Now. Let's not fight right after seeing each other again, Kaku commented. Komodori looked at them with an eye closed. Yoi. 5 long years it has been. Affection, not animosity, should be shown. Fukuro reached up to unzip his mouth. Califa immediately dashed forward to kick him out of the couch, sending him flying towards the wall. Without hesitation, Blueno intercepted him mid-flight to punch him in the chest towards Kaku, prompting the square-nosed assassin to deliver an elbow strike to his back. Lucci then stepped up to kick the man in his abdomen, finally letting Fukuro crash onto the floor. Teaways. Fukuro leapt back on his feet, showing no signs of being kicked around mercilessly. If a common armed guardsman has a Dariki of 10. Let's see. The rest waited silently as Fukuro calculated their Darikis respectively. Califa 630. Blueno 820. Myself 900. Komodori 910. Kaku 2200. Jabra 2500. Lucci 4000. What? Jabra slams the armrest of the couch, leaping up on his feet. I'd been training my ass off. How the hell did this guy get such a higher Dariki than me? Kaku raised an eyebrow. You don't seem surprised by the number. If I remember correctly, this is the first time I've heard someone have such a high Dariki. So noisy. Is the stupid dog barking again? A voice called out from behind. Everyone turned to see an auburn-haired girl with an eye patch over her right eye walk into the room without knocking. Following behind her was a pale man with whiskers on his face wearing a cowboy hat with a red plume. Who are they? Blueno asked, looking at the two newcomers critically. Spandam grinned. That little brat there is Olivia. Metal-headed freak, Olivia muttered, though loud enough for everyone to hear. Ignoring her, Spandam continued, she joined us 3 years ago while you guys were deployed. The other one is Nero, the newest member of the team. Mr. Lucci. I'm a fan. Nero immediately went up and bowed to the top hat-wearing assassin. Pleased to meet you. Olivia shoved him away, crossing her arms to stare up at the tall man in the eyes. As though completing an inspection, the ponytailed girl turned her back to him, scoffing, prideful kitten. Lucci raised an eyebrow at the unexpected words. Pffffff. Jaya ha ha ha. Prideful kitten. Ha 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 ha. Jabra pointed a finger at Lucci while laughing hysterically. TCH. The mad dog's barking is irritating as usual. I knew I should have cut his tongue off with a rusted spoon the last time. Olivia bit her thumb regretfully. Fukuro unzipped his zipper once more. Chapapa. Olivia's Dariki is 3,800. Kaku, Califa and Blueno raised their eyebrows in surprise. Chapapa. Nero's Dariki is dash. No one cares about the hamster. Olivia waved her hand to shut him up. He hasn't even mastered Shurgon yet. Nero scratched his head in embarrassment. Still. For a girl like you to have a Dariki like that. That's quite impressive, Califa praised. Jabra huffs, if you think she's impressive, we used to have a monster on the team. That guy's not human. Yoyoy. An inspiration he was. He made all of us train harder than ever before. Komodori sang out. Oh? What was his Doriki then? Kaku asked, genuinely curious. Cha papa. That guy's Doriki was over 9,000. Ahem. About 9,001. At this statement, Califa, Kaku and Blueno were shocked into silence, eyes wide in disbelief. So? Lucci smirked, a rare smile that most never saw on him. Where is he now? Jabra glanced at him, sensing the leopard man's bloodlust. He already transferred out 2 years ago, but you guys might have met him already. Well, no surprise you don't know him since you guys were deployed when he was here after all. Monkey D. Luffy, tried and true man amongst men, with a fate so bleak. Yoyoy. The Rear Admiral? Califa gasped. Kaku raised an eyebrow, you mean he transferred to the Marines? Cha papa. An incident occurred which resulted in the transfer. Fukuro then slid closer towards them and lowered his voice. If you guys want to know about it, I'll tell you guys later. Lucci's smile evaporated, as though losing interest. Olivia took note of it, not just a prideful kitten, but also a clueless idiot. Lucci glanced at the short girl, his eyes rested on her thin neck that he could easily snap in half with one hand. That was when he noticed the pale scar that sliced across her neck. He pointed at his own neck, that scar. Someone tried to slice open your neck in the past, didn't they? Does that have something to do with your sharp tongue? Olivia's hand shot upwards to hide the scar from view. None of your business, tabby cat. Blueno frowned, you should show a little bit more respect for your senior's little girl. Olivia directed her glare towards him, respect is earned, not given, hornhead. And seeing how that freak faces the boss of this place, I don't have high hopes for anyone else here. Califa stifled a giggle as she heard the girl insult their boss. Spandam grimaced but knew better than to argue back. Clearing his throat, he called out to the guards behind the door. Bring in the criminals. The doors to the room opened once more, the guards shoving in Frankie and Robin into the room. While Robin only had a pair of sea stone cuffs on her wrist, Frankie had thick iron chains wrapped around him. Wahahaha. Welcome, Cutty Flam. I didn't think you actually survived that crash those years ago. Spandam laughed as he strutted towards the scrapper. Did you know how disappointed I was when I found out that stupid Fishman didn't have the blueprints with him? Now, how ironic that it was actually left with a fool like you, huh? With the blueprint we can finally use that weapon however we liked. Those who opposes us will die like that stinky Fishman. Frankie glared at him. The reason Tom sacrificed himself was to keep the blueprints away from bastards like you. Frankie leapt forward, his mouth opening impossibly wide to bite down on Spandam's head mercilessly. Oh wow, that's new, Olivia smirked. Arf. It hurts. It hurts. Save me, you guys. Spandam screamed out in agony. Komodori leapt forward, his hair moving on its own to wrap around Frankie and pulling him off the director and slamming him onto the ground. Spandam groaned as he rubbed his head in pain, as hot-headed as always, you damn criminal. But at least you're stupid, not like that iceberg. He managed to put himself in a position where we couldn't touch him even if we wanted to. But just when I was about to put the enforcement plan into place, Admiral Akainu just had to deliver a secret order for us. Spandam now turned his attention towards Robin with an arrogant smirk. Nico, Robin is under the protection of a marine unit. Capture her by any means necessary when the unit stops at Water 7. I admit I was surprised that a person like you could find dull-witted marines to manipulate, but you danced straight into my palm anyways. Spandam laughed. Dull-witted marines? You sure you meant to say that, boss? Jabra smirked. Olivia crossed her arms. I'm sure the only dull-witted one here is you, Braceface. You accepted the order without even finding out all the details. Shut up. Everything's fine now. She's here, he's not here. I managed to complete the order perfectly. Spandam yelled indignantly. Olivia rolled her eyes. Oh really? I'm surprised you actually managed to come up with such a perfect plan with that stupid head of yours. Spandam grinned proudly, gesturing towards Lucci's group. First I have them disguise as a criminal organization unrelated to the government to attack Iceberg. Then make Nico Robin a part of this organization to throw Luffy off our tail. He won't even know that it's us. Kaku raised a hand. His crew did see our faces though. Spandam froze, turning around to face the square-nosed assassin. What did you say? Rear Admiral Luffy's crew know how we look like, Kaku repeated. Why? Why do they know? You didn't tell us there was a need to hide ourselves from his crew in P. Particular, Blueno pointed out. Spandam's eyes widened. What about Luffy? What did you guys do? Where is he now? You ordered us to make sure he could not get involved in this incident, so we forged an order from him to assassinate Iceberg and tipped off the local Marines. He's now confined in that outpost as a traitor, Lucci reported. The director of CP9 began shivering. What? Wait. Didn't I tell you guys not to involve him? Califa pushed up her glasses with a hand. Incorrect, sir. Your exact orders were capture Robin by any means necessary and make sure that Rear Admiral is unable to do anything about it, but most importantly do not confront him directly. I don't care how you do it as long as he's held up somehow. So this was our solution to incapacitate him. Olivia bursted out in laughter. Ahahaha. This is priceless. Branded as a traitor by the CP9. He's going to be so pissed. Jabra sighed from beside her. It won't take him long to figure out who framed him too. Komodori twirled his staff in an exaggerated fashion. Yoi oi. The storms of vengeance shall be brought to bear. Fukuro unzipped part of his mouth. Chapapa, it will not be a pretty sight. Snot was already dribbling past the director's nose when the den mushy on his desk rang. The director rushed forward to pick up the receiver, praying to every god he knew of that it was just a minor issue. But he knew deep inside they would not call his desk phone for such a thing. Chief Spandam, sir. The Marine on the other end greeted. This is the main gate reporting. We spotted a giant flying ship headed towards us. What are your orders? Who? Is there anyone on board? Spandam asked, his voice shaking. Ah, hold on a moment, sir, we're still checking. You idiot. Why did you call me when you haven't even confirmed that? My apologies, sir. There is a person standing on the prow. It looks like. Like. Ah. Stop your stuttering, you fool. Who is it? The reporting Marine gulped audibly, his teeth chattering in obvious fear. It's Mr. Lulu Luffy, SSS, sir. Spandam's knees turned to jelly, but the Marine was not done reporting. And he looks. Really? Angry. The receiver slips from Spandam's hand, clattering on the desk. Jabra rolled his eyes and sighed. Olivia had a feral grin on her lips while clenching her fists. Komodori was murmuring death haikus, and for the first time Fukuro was absolutely silent. Spandam immediately picked up the receiver again, his eyes bloodshot. Sound the alarm. Put the entire island on red alert. Send everyone to stop him. Everyone, you hear me? He slams the receiver back down on the snail, turning to see the two prisoners in front of him. We're leaving right now. Bring the prisoners with us. We have to get through the gates of justice now. The director picked up a chest on the table and tossed it at Kaku, the square-nosed assassin catching it with both hands. Inside that chest are 2 devil fruits. I need you and Califa to eat it now. Both Califa and Kaku raised an eyebrow at their director's panicked tone. Califa tried asking, why dash? No questions. Those fruits will make you stronger. We need all the power we can get right now. Just do it. Spandam screeched while fastening his elephant sword behind his back. Blueno, Califa, Kaku and Lucci could only wonder at their director's panicked state, never having witnessed this frightened side of him. Spandam suddenly looked towards the Den Mushi again, an idea coming to his head. Ah! I know! I'll request Admiral Akainu for permission to Buster call Eni's lobby. Robin gasped, "No. You can't do that. Shut up, you criminal!" Spandam roared, already moving to pick up the receiver of the snail. "You don't know what a Buster call is like. You'll kill everyone. It's not something you can use." Robin screamed, trying to lunge towards Spandam. Jabra beat her to it, his hand slamming the receiver back down just as Spandam picked it up. "Jabra! What the hell do you think you're doing?" Spandam demanded. "Are you an idiot? You think it's actually a good idea to Buster call Eni's lobby now?" Jabra asked. Robin stopped in her tracks, shocked that someone else would try to stop the director from issuing a Buster call. She was sure that no one else knew the horrors of such a thing. Spandam gritted his teeth. "If it means that it will stop him, I'll do it." As expected of the brainless moron, Olivia smirked. "Calling in a Buster call now will only add all 10 battleships to the casualty list, it won't change a damn thing." Fukuro and Kumadori nodded discreetly behind her. "Though I'll admit, a Buster call will probably cause less damage than what Luffy Senpai might do. That would probably be the best way for a certain spineless idiot to die right now, go out with a bang, you know?" Olivia added with a smirk. Spandam furrowed his brows. "Shut up. All of you. Take the prisoners and follow me. Call the bridge and the gate to tell them to prepare to receive us." Blueno went ahead to pick up Frankie, ignoring his indignant screams as he tossed him over his shoulder. The bull-headed man then grabbed Robin's arm with a hand, pulling her towards the exit. Califa, Kaku, Lucci and Nero followed closely behind him. Olivia, Jabra, Fukuro and Kumadori made no move to follow them. "I hope you still remember that we want no part in this," Jabra reminded him with a frown. Spandam gritted his teeth at the wolfman but did not argue, storming past them to join the group that was leaving. Lucci stopped in his tracks, turning around to narrow his eyes at his colleague. "You're disobeying a direct order?" Jabra scoffed. "It was an agreement we made." Lucci smirked. "You're afraid of him." Olivia tilted her head at him. "I suggest the ignorant fool shut his mouth about things he doesn't know." Lucci's gaze switched to the girl that barely came up to his chest in height. "You all seem to have forgotten that Doriki only measures physical strength, not devil fruit powers. I can still win against him." Yeah, curly chin. "Keep telling yourself that," Olivia waved at him dismissively. "Lucci, don't tell me you're backing down too. Your mission is to protect me, you got it?" Spandam yelled from the door. Lucci took one last look at the four before turning back to rejoin his own group. He could feel his own body itching to fight this monstrosity that everyone else seemed to be afraid of. "So you'll get your wish after all." Jabra frowned at the auburn-haired girl. Olivia glared towards the window that looked out at the main gate. "He will pay for what he did to me. I'll make sure of it myself." The auburn-haired girl cracked her knuckles. At the main gate, an army of Marines and government agents stood defending the gate. All of them wore the same fearful expressions on their faces. The Ark landed on the water just in front of the fence that surrounded the island. "Give me 5 minutes, then all of you can go wild afterwards, don't die," Luffy ordered, stepping onto the ship's railing. The rear admiral disappeared in a flurry of sparks and reappeared on the edge of the island in front of the army, his marine cloak fluttering behind him. Luffy looked up at the double doors of the gate that led into what used to be his home 3 years ago. He remembered his last day of work walking through those gates to board the sea train headed for his new post, then coming back here to pay his respects and apologize at Olivia's grave. The people standing in front of him now used to work with him. Though the other 4 CP9 agents rarely socialized with people outside their team, Luffy had mixed himself among them as a way to keep his sanity in check. He was cold and calculating while on the job, but when he was among the grunts he would let his usually locked emotions run free for a few precious moments. He had heard from Fukuro that there had been a secret popularity ranking amongst the Eni's lobby staff. Luffy had taken the first spot with Olivia behind him and Gatherine coming up a close third. But he had also been told that he had taken the top spot in the ranking for scariest CP9 agent as well, amusing the young assassin to no end at that time. Luffy took a step forward and everyone else instinctively took a step back. A few of them felt the area between their legs moisten. Corgi had been standing at the front, his teeth chattering as he witnessed Luffy slowly making his way towards the gate. "Mr. Rear Admiral Luffy, sir. Please calm down," the agent pleaded. Luffy lifted his head to look at him with a single emotionless eye, the other eye hidden by the brim of his hat. That look was one that everyone who had worked with him on Enies lobby was familiar with. It was a look that Luffy gave when he was absolutely furious. The first time they saw it was when the island's supply convoy had been raided by pirates, prompting Luffy to massacre the pirate group completely to get their food back. "Take my charge away, did you? She was under my protection," Luffy whispered. That was not from our own volition," Corgi spluttered. Luffy stopped in front of the government agent. "I will say this only once. I'm here to get her back. Anyone who tries to stop me will receive no mercy." Corgi gulped audibly. "I have mercy, please, sir. We have been ordered to stop you." There was silence for a few seconds before Luffy finally whispered, "So be it." Corgi had a moment to see Luffy's eyes glaze over. "Sure gone." Corgi tasted blood as he felt the finger gun penetrate his abdomen. Luffy pulled his finger out without hesitation, not even giving Corgi a glance as he collapsed onto the ground. The rear admiral reached up to tear his cloak off his shoulders, letting it float down to cover Corgi's body. His other hand reached up to pick his straw hat off his head, dropping it down on top of his cloak. Luffy clenched his fists, his former colleagues now merely targets in his eyes. Behind the former CP9 agent, dark clouds began spewing out from the ark's funnel, covering the clear skies in a layer of darkness. For the first time in history, storm clouds hung over the Nevernight Island. Chapter 35, Familiar Unfamiliarities. The army of Marines and government agents gaped at the prone form of Corgi. None of them even saw the stab the rear admiral had given the agent before he had collapsed in a crumpled heap at his feet. Luffy continued his advance towards the gates, both of his fists clenched by his sides. A Marine guard stepped towards him, his hands in front of him in a placating gesture. "Sir Luffy. Please. Don't dash." The Marine found himself backhanded away before he could finish speaking, crashing into the wall beside the gate. Luffy continued his advance without slowing down, as though all he did was waved away a fly that had been near him. "SSS, stop him," the commander of the guards yelled, pointing a shaky finger at Luffy. Everyone hesitated for a moment. To attack that monster would spell doom, to disobey the order would also result in their demise. Collectively deciding it was a better way to perish by facing the legendary assassin instead of running in the face of the enemy, everyone roared and charged at the one-man army. Gunshots resounded and bullets flew, all of them congregating towards the same target. Saru. The assassin disappeared from their view, the bullets passing through the space where he had been moments ago harmlessly. Rankyaku. A fountain of blood erupted among a group of guards, all of them clutching at their various slash wounds as they collapsed on the floor. Where is he?" the commander demanded, his eyes unable to follow Luffy's movements as he dashed through the crowd. To his right, another group of government agents suddenly yelled out in pain, their arms and legs broken in various places. Before the commander could comprehend what had happened, an icy cold hand had reached out to grasp his throat. He gasped as he felt the hand tighten painfully, then suddenly relax its grip. Instead of breaking his neck, Luffy punched the commander's abdomen with his other hand, sending the already unconscious man crashing onto the floor. A group of foolishly brave Marines let out a war cry as they charged their enemy with their swords drawn. The first one slashed at the assassin, his sword sailing through the air towards his neck. Takai. The sword shattered into pieces the moment it impacted against Luffy's hardened skin, the Marine staring at his broken sword with a resigned look on his face. 4 of Luffy's fingers burrowed into the guard's belly, leaving 4 bullet holes in its victim when he pulled his arm back. Luffy sidestepped the next attack, raising his hand to rest the finger and thumb that had been pressed together against his attacker's forehead. Flicking the finger forward, the guard was launched 5 feet into the air before crashing amongst the other guards, tripping them over one another. The guards tried to pry themselves off the entanglement of limbs, but Luffy was already upon them, both his hands raised with his index fingers pointed at them. "Sure gone, T-sure." Luffy's fingers jabbed forward in a flurry of blows, embedding his finger guns in each of the guards' shoulders and legs with absolute precision. Ignoring their cries of pain, he moved forward to face the next group of defenders. 3 government agents rose to stall him, katanas in hand. Luffy threw his hands out to the side, his palms facing the ground and fingers extended fully. 3 swords came down at him from above, each of them aiming to cleave him in two without mercy. The assassin swung his left hand up in an arc above his head, spinning on a leg at the same time to slash out his right arm in front of him. 3 blades impacted the floor before the 3 men wielding the blades joined them, a single slash wound against each of their chests. 2 guards came at him from behind next, swinging their swords at his exposed back. Kami-e. Luffy's body bent forwards like a reed swaying in the wind, the swords just barely grazing past his back without leaving a mark. He spun on his heel, his right leg kicking backwards to smash against a face, sending the guard spinning towards the other guard and crashing headfirst into him. 5 more rose to the challenge, pointing their pistols at him. Takai. The 5 bullets that were shot towards Luffy's chest impacted harmlessly against his skin, shattering into pieces. The assassin lunged forward, his fist impacting the chest of the guard in the center of the group. His chest caved in from the punch, his body sent flying backwards to crash into the wall. The shockwave from the punch also launched the other 4 flying away in different directions. Everyone on the ark watched the fight in awe. The sight of a single man taking on an army without breaking a sweat was too surreal. Zambai gulped. Does he even need our help? Polly closed the mouth that had hung open since the start of the fight. We don't even need to worry about our weapons chipping at this rate, much less dying. Zoro and Sanji shivered slightly as they watched their superior decimate the army in front of him. Their minds wandered back to the time they told him to fight them seriously. They still had some scars left over from that fight to show for it. "You're mistaken there," Sanji puffed on his cigarette nervously. "When he told us not to die, he did not mean not to die by the enemy's hands." A bead of cold sweat rolled past Zoro's feral grin. He meant not to die by getting caught in his crossfire. He won't be able to stop himself in time. Everyone somehow knew the swordsman was not joking. Leaving a mass of bodies lying in his wake, Luffy stepped up towards the main gate. To enter Eni's lobby, one had to first pass through the main gate in front of the day station where the sea train would stop. Right behind the main gate was a stretch of land that ended at the main island gate, barring the way to the courtyard which stationed most of the island's inhabitants. These 2 gates were controlled by 2 levers in 2 separate rooms on either side of the gate. Without the usage of these levers, these 5-meter-thick stone doors could only be forced open by someone with the strength of a giant. Bracing on one foot, Luffy kicked at the gigantic doors with his other foot as though he was just kicking down a normal wooden door. Both stone doors flew off their hinges, soaring over the walls of main island gate to crash somewhere inside the courtyard. The legion of arm blade-wearing guards riding on dogs watched Luffy step past the broken remains of the gate, all of them shaking in their boots. Rear Admiral Luffy. SSS stop RRR right TT this instance. The leader of the Hobantai demanded in a squeaky voice. Luffy continued his advance without pause. The 2 giants behind the Hobantai that guarded the gates paled even further when they realized Luffy was not stopping. The thinner giant, Kashi, got on his knees. "Luffy, please stop this. We can't fulfill our promise like this." The fatter giant, Uemo, got on his knees to plead as well. "Please. Just come back in another 50 years. Just 50 more years. Please." Luffy continued moving forward as though he did not hear a thing, a shadow hiding his eyes from view. "SSS stop him," the leader of the Hobuntai yelled. The guards moved to obey, urging their mounts forward to strike at the assassin. When none of them moved, the guards then realized that all of the dogs had already fainted from fear while still standing. DD dismount AANA attack. The Hobuntai charged forward, raising a war cry to cover their own fear. The first guard to reach him was backhanded across the face, crashing through the crowd and sending them flying like bowling pins. The next guard received a punch in the face, similarly finding himself crashing back through the charging crowd like a rocket. It was a wonder how his face still retained its shape from that punch. The third guard got a kick in his abdomen, turning him into a human cannonball that barreled through the last remnants of the Hobuntai. Oimo and Kashi gaped at how the supposedly elite guards of Eni's lobby were decimated in only 3 hits. Kashi roared as he raised his axe in the air, hopelessness shined clearly in his eyes. The giant swung his axe straight down at Luffy's head with all the strength he could muster. Anyone else might have expected Luffy to be squashed easily under the mighty strength of the giant. The axe stopped short of its target, a single upraised arm encased in haki halting its descent completely. Jeppo! Luffy appeared in front of Kashi's face. The giant had already closed his eyes shut to brace himself for the inevitable impact. Kashi flew back to crash into the wall, the kick Luffy had delivered to his face already knocking the giant out before he had even hit the wall. Oimo swung his club towards the airborne Luffy, tears already dripping past the corners of his eyes. Luffy punched at the club with an armament-hardened fist, shattering the giant's weapon into mere splinters. The assassin appeared in front of the giant's face with his fist clenched, the giant too busy looking up at the sky and apologizing to his bosses to do anything else. Oimo joined his buddy in unconscious bliss beside the gate, a fist imprint on the right side of his cheek. Luffy landed in front of the gate without a sound, his eyes emotionless. At this point of time, the entire island was covered in darkness, the storm clouds buzzing angrily above the island. Lightning began striking down unpredictably, destroying the buildings that they hit. Everyone on the island already knew by now that a monstrous storm was upon them. Luffy raised his hand, palm facing the sky, before swinging it back down to point at the gate. On cue, a giant column of lightning struck down from the clouds above, engulfing the entire main island gate. It was a full 5 seconds before the lightning finally dissipated, the area where the gate once stood now an empty patch of charred ground. The rest of the island's guards that had stood behind the gate gaped at the lone man that had caused the gate's destruction, stepping over the ashes in the most casual way possible. Luffy cracked his knuckles as he lunged forward, continuing his thinning of the numbers. Nami closed the pocket watch just as the second's hand completed another round. Alright, 5 minutes is up, time to move. She reached a hand to pull herself on Gamara's back where the rest of the crew were waiting for her. The Carpenters and Frankie family had split themselves into 2 groups to ride on Gamara and Sodom, all prepared for the charge. Kokoro, Chimney and Gonbi waved them off. They would be waiting on the ship for their return. You know. Why can't that rear admiral just transform into lightning and jump straight towards the tower? Polly asked from Sodom's back. Sanji raised his only visible eyebrow. You can't tell? He's clearing the way for us. But does he actually need our help? Zambai frowned while checking the reins on Gamara. He seems capable of taking the entire island on by himself. Zoro tilted his head at him. You guys came to get your bro back and avenge your defeat, right? Would you guys be satisfied if he did everything for you? At those words, a fire was lit in every scrapper's eyes. Hell no. We'll storm this island and show them it was a mistake to mess with us too. We'll make them regret taking our bro. Zambai roared. The other Frankies punched their fists in the air to roar out in agreement. Let's go Sodom, Gamara. We'll fight to get our bro back. The 2 King Bulls neighed in determination as they climbed over the fence to charge through the gates, Nami taking a moment to snatch up Luffy's cloak and hat from the ground before stashing them underneath her own cloak. They charged past the broken main gate, jumping over the still unconscious forms of the dogs and passing in between the 2 giant gatekeepers. Reaching the courtyard, a scene of carnage greeted them. Unconscious forms of both Marines and government agents were strewn around the street. Many of the buildings along the path to the courthouse were either charred black or reduced to rubble. He really didn't hold back. Usopp muttered, catching sight of a group of Marines that had the lower halves of their bodies buried in the ground. So he was a former Cypher Pole agent. I would never have believed it if he hadn't told us himself, Sanji muttered. I wonder if the other CP9 members are as crazy strong as he is. Zoro looked straight ahead with a smirk. Isn't that really scary then? Chopper gasped. Don't be ridiculous, I'm sure Luffy's the only crazy one, Nami huffed. Soon, the courthouse came into view, the doors leading into its depths already smashed into pieces. In front of the opening, a large group of Marines and government agents stood with their weapons drawn, barricading the entrance. I forgot to tell you guys. Polly shouted from the other bull. There's a drawbridge that needs to be lowered if you want to get to the Tower of Justice. It's operated by 2 levers on either side of the courthouse, so we'll need to split up to lower it. We'll do it. Zambai shouted without hesitation. The ones on Gamara will head to the left. You guys on Sodom will go to the right. You Marines should go ahead to where the rear admiral is. Once the bridge is lowered, just head straight ahead to the Tower of Justice, Lulu suggested, pushing down the strand of hair on his arm. Yarark. We'll cover your backs. We won't let them get past the bridge after you. Tilestone flexed his muscles. Alright then, we're counting on you. Sanji gave them a thumbs up. The 2 king bulls charged into the barricade, surprising most of the guards. Apparently they had been trying to prevent whoever was inside from coming out and were not prepared to receive another attack from behind. The Straw Hats immediately dismounted, bashing their way through towards the courthouse while the others split themselves into 2 groups to head towards the towers. With how distracted the guards were, it didn't take much effort for the Straw Hats to beat down all of them to gain entry into the courthouse. The Straw Hats noted that at the entrance of the court, 11 large-sized and muscular men were beaten into the ground with only their heads sticking out, the large flails that they would usually wield all shattered into pieces around them. In the middle of the spacious court, a 3-headed man was standing with his sword drawn, waving it in front to keep the monster away from him. They were the presiding judges of the courthouse, otherwise known as the Baskervilles. Guilty. Definitely guilty. Rear Admiral Luffy is guilty. We shall stay here and defend the tower with our lives. The left Bakerville yelled out. No, no, no. The right Baskerville shook his head. He is innocent, very innocent indeed. Let's allow him to pass through freely. I shall be neutral in this manner then. The middle head shouted out. I say we go hide in our room and pretend we're not home. What's wrong with you? The other 2 heads bashed themselves against the middle head. Before the middle head could retort back, Luffy was already in front of them with his right fist raised in the air. His fist shot forward 3 times in the span of a second, punching all 3 heads and sending the judge crashing towards the back of the courthouse in a crumpled heap. HHH, hold it right there. A government agent shouted out from the entrance. The Straw Hats turned to see another group of guards appearing at the doorway, their weapons drawn and pointed at them. We won't let you go any further. Time to get to work then. Zoro unsheathed his blades, rushing towards the group. They will do for a warm-up, Sanji grinned, dashing ahead. No one will stop us. Chopper yelled out, changing to his human form. Nami twirled her climb attack in an arc. I wonder if I can use Luffy's lightnings with this. Usopp unslung his kabuto from his back. We'll clear the way to Robin. The guards with firearms immediately unleashed a hail of bullets upon the Straw Hats. Zoro spun his blades in an arc, cutting through all of the bullets with ease, protecting the crew behind him. Sanji leapt over the swordsman, somersaulting in the air before landing amidst the guards on his hand. Spinning quickly, the cook kicked both his legs out. Rankyaku! The guards who were closest to him were thrown away from the 2 air blades that Sanji kicked out, collapsing on the ground while they bled from the cuts they received. Still not fast enough, Sanji noted the shallow cuts his air blades had made. Guess I still have a ways to go. Zoro kicked at the ground, disappearing from the front of the guards in a blur. Saru! The marine swordsman reappeared behind the guards with his swords held by his sides. The guards who had been standing in his way all collapsed to the ground, multiple slash wounds appearing on their bodies. Now, who's next? Zoro grinned at the next group of guards. Chopper rushed towards the throng of guards who had their weapons aimed at him. One of the guards cocked his pistol, shoot him down. The other guards obeyed, firing their weapons at the charging reindeer. Tekai, Sharuda Toshin. Chopper braced his shoulder as the bullets bounced off harmlessly against his skin, slamming through the guards and sending them flying in every direction. The swords that had hit him during the charge either shattered or lay dented and bent in the ground. "Things like that can't hurt me anymore," Chopper yelled, charging towards his next targets. "Captain Nami, please surrender, we don't want to shoot a girl," one of the guards ordered, pointing his gun at her. Nami looked at the group in front of her with mild pity. They had no idea what was going to happen to them. Actually, neither did she. Nami stuck her tongue out at them mischievously. "I would say the same to you, but unfortunately I have no reservations about shooting guys." She swung her staff in an arc, several thunder balls floated towards them, generating a field of electricity. Without warning, a giant bolt of lightning struck down from the sky to strike the field, enveloping the entire group of Marines in its electrifying embrace. Nami looked at the charred forms of the twitching guards. "Wow. Luffy's lightning is really useful." Usopp stood at the back, firing his special bullets at targets of opportunity and aiding his teammates from the rear. It seemed like the training the Kuja pirates and Luffy gave them are finally showing results. "Luffy!" Usopp shouted, his hands not slowing down with his firing. "The Carpenters and Frankie family are working to lower the drawbridge. We just need to defend this place until they lower the bridge." Luffy paid him no heed as he walked towards where the bridge was, his arm transforming into lightning. Placing his hand on the wall nearby, Luffy let the electrical charge travel along the gears that were meant to move the bridge, magnetizing them in an instant. Manipulating the electrical charge, the gears began moving to his will, lowering the drawbridge that led towards the Tower of Justice. "Or you can do that, I guess," Usopp muttered under his breath. Having dealt with the immediate threats, the Straw Hats fell back into the courthouse, confident that the Carpenters and Scrappers could finish up the stragglers behind them. They waited for the drawbridge to lower a few steps behind their commander, the bridge locking into place with a loud boom. At the other end of the bridge, another pair of stone doors similar to the courthouses was set. Except that this pair of doors was already open wide, as though welcoming the Straw Hats. A lone girl stood barring their way in. The girl stood with her arms crossed confidently, her auburn ponytail swaying slightly in the wind. To the rest of the Straw Hats, she looked no older than they were, maybe even younger given her short stature. They noticed Luffy taking a step back. Color returned to the assassin's eyes as his mind recognized who was standing at the other end of the bridge. Despite how much his mind was screaming that it was impossible, the girl he thought he had killed 2 years ago stood smirking at him from across the bridge. "She's strong," Zoro remarked, his left hand reaching across to grip at his sword. Nami held her climb attack by her side, the electrical rod already prepared. Usopp tightened his fist around several of his bullets, ready to fire them at a moment's notice. Chopper stared at her cautiously, his muscles tense. Sanji was pirouetting about as usual about spotting a beautiful girl. Luffy reached out a hand to stop any of them from attacking her, confusion clear in his crew's eyes when they sought his arm. Seeing his action, Olivia's smirk grew wider. "Surprised to see me, Luffy-senpai?" "Son." "Senpai?" Usopp tried asking. Luffy hesitated. "When I was still with CP9. I was her mentor. An incident happened and I killed her. At least, I thought I did." His crew did a double take at his words. "We were fighting someone with a devil fruit that could collapse a person's sanity," Olivia explained. "He managed to collapse Luffy-senpai's sanity and made us fight each other. I lost control. When I came back to myself, you were gone. Your hair. I thought I killed you. And you came back here alone, took me for dead and requested for a transfer out of here," Olivia finished for him. "Luffy, how could you hurt a beautiful girl like that?" Sanji shook his fist at him from behind. "So you're here to stop us from taking Robin back as well then?" Zoro asked, unclasping his blade. Olivia shrugged. "I couldn't care less about her, I'm only here for Luffy-senpai." Luffy frowned. "You guys go ahead then. I'll take care of her." His crew nodded, knowing full well that they would only be a hindrance even if they stayed. The group ran past the girl who had her eyes trained on her ex-mentor the entire time, not moving to stop them from passing her. Zoro had to forcefully pull Sanji away before he could start professing his love for her. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" Olivia asked as casually as one would ask about the weather. "How? So cold, senpai, didn't you miss little old me? Or are you disappointed to find me alive and well? Or mostly well for that matter?" The female agent scratched her eye patch idly. Olivia stepped onto the bridge, closing the distance between them. "Funny, isn't it? We even had a term for every time you went berserk, calling it an incident. It's as though you were a mistake, an accident, or just not meant to be." Luffy frowned at her words. "What happened to you?" Olivia smiled serenely. "You happened, senpai, what else? I had always been chasing after you, did you know that? I looked up to you, saw you as a role model, always trying to catch up to that strength of yours." The girl's eyes grew distant, as though recalling a fond memory. She snapped back to attention a while later, her smile widened when she caught sight of Luffy again. "I guess you just want to know what really happened 2 years ago." Flashback. In the throne room of the Neverday Island, Luffy stood over Olivia with his fist raised in preparation to strike her down. Olivia crossed her arms in front of her, already bracing herself for the impact with Tekai. The punch launched her flying backwards, the girl screaming out in pain as she felt the bones in her arms crack. Gritting through the pain, she flipped herself over to land on her feet, eyes already scanning in front of her for her adversary. She hesitated for a moment when she found the space empty, only for a kick to impact on her back to send her flying forwards. Rankyaku. Luffy launched an air blade at the airborne girl without hesitation. Olivia tilted her head backwards, but there was no space to avoid the air blade. She bit down the scream that almost spilled past her throat, blood flowing freely from where her right eye had been. She had a moment to swear to herself that she will cut Jabra up with a rusted spoon when she returned to Eni's lobby before Luffy lunged towards her again. Rankyaku! Olivia kicked out the air blade to stall him if nothing else. Luffy sidestepped the projectile, kicking against the air to launch himself in front of Olivia, his hand slicing towards her neck. Tech dash. The hand slashed at her throat before she could fully materialize her skill, cutting into her flesh to leave a wound across her neck. His other hand also slashed upwards in an arc as he passed her, Olivia barely avoiding the slash across her forehead as her mentor's airblade sliced off her bangs. Olivia gasped out in pain as she gripped at her neck, trying to stem the blood flow. Thankfully, the cut had been shallow or she would be drowning in her own blood at that moment. Luffy turned back to stare at Olivia with emotionless eyes. Slowly, he raised both his fists parallel to the ground in front of him, one above his chest and the other below. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Olivia wheezed, already realizing what her mentor was going to do. She stood up on unsteady feet, her hands still grasping at her neck. The killing machine lunged forward, almost faster than Olivia could see. The girl stomped hard on the ground, sending a part of the floor upwards to create a wall in front of her. She immediately crossed her arms in front of her, bracing her body with the hardest Tekai she could muster. Luffy's fists hit the improvised barricade. Rokushiki Oji, Rokwogen. The barricade shattered into pieces, the shockwave traveling through to crash against Olivia, flinging her backwards towards the wall of the throne room. The wall exploded outwards from the impact, opening the throne room to the air outside. Olivia groaned as she spat out the blood in her mouth, her whole body screaming in pain. The female assassin looked up at her mentor, seeing him adopt the same pose again but with his fists encased in armament this time. "Seriously? This is the first time I've seen you invoke your freestyle armament in that state." Olivia forced herself to stand up despite how much her body was protesting against it. "Am I really that big of a threat to you?" In Luffy's current state, his mind automatically finds the most efficient way to incapacitate his targets. The skills he would use to take down his targets would thus scale according to how much of a threat his mind thinks the enemy is. "I guess I'll take that as a compliment. You did train me after all." Olivia smirked at him. Luffy did not answer her, his fist still pointed straight at her while breathing in loud gasps. I'm guessing you only have enough juice left for one more Rokugan. Let's do it then. I'll take you on and you'll come back to your senses. Olivia raised her own fists in front of her in the same pose, her eyes glaring at him resolutely. Come at me, senpai. Luffy lunged forward, his emotionless eyes set on his prey, freestyle armament. Olivia stood her ground, her eyes staring right back at his Rokushiki Oji. Rokugan. The resulting shockwave tore the roof and the remaining walls off the throne room, blasting everything away from them. Luffy was blasted back, his heels digging into the ground in an attempt to stop himself, leaving 2 visible tracks in his wake. The CP9 agent looked back at where he had been, an empty space greeting him. His eyes regained their color a few seconds later, Olivia's hair clutched in one of his fists where he had cut them off moments before. Olivia had been sent flying high into the air by the shockwave, soaring over the forests and crashing into the sea. Her arms were broken, the pains in her chest suggested several broken ribs, and she was mildly sure that she had a concussion to top it off. A sea king swam by, regarding her with a single eye before swallowing the girl whole. As Olivia tumbled through the sea king's throat and into its belly, she had a moment to smirk to herself, so this is how I die. The sea king swam away to look for larger prey. A few moments later, the sea king's eyes bulged and it started convulsing painfully. It leapt out of the water, thrashing around in its death throes. Its stomach exploded outwards, revealing a blood-soaked Olivia kicking her way out of the sea king with rage clear on her face. Like hell, I'm gonna just die like that. The girl crash-landed on a nearby beach, breathing hard in exhaustion. She took a moment to look around, realizing it was a completely different island from the one she had been on before. Hells! How far did this stupid fish swim? She walked up to the dead sea king that had breathed its last on the beach, kicking its snout in frustration while her arms hung uselessly by her sides. Satisfied with her venting, she sat down beside the carcass while looking out at the waves. The red line was just barely visible over the horizon. Well, if there's one thing Luffy senpai has taught me well, it's to never give up. It took a few months for my arms to heal enough to get to work, Olivia remarked, staring up at the sky. Then I built a raft and headed towards the red line, followed it all the way to Mariewa before getting back to Ini's lobby. Took me about 5 months to return, you know? The girl turned her head back to regard the ex-mentor. When I got back, I found out you got transferred and everyone thought me for dead. You guys even held a funeral for me, how sweet. I heard that they used the hair you cut off to bury me. Oli. Luffy frowned, his guilt washing over him. Olivia smiled at him. Oli, huh? You're the only one who ever called me that, even when I told you not to. Feels like it's been too long since I heard that name. Almost like that girl died somewhere out at sea. Oli, I'm sorry. Sorry? I'm the one that should be sorry, not you. Luffy narrowed his eyes. What? What do you mean? What are you sorry for? For what I'm about to do to you, of course. Olivia lunged towards him, her right finger extended and rushing towards his chest. Luffy sidestepped the Shurgan before ducking down to avoid the kick she had immediately sent towards him. He raised his arm to block her next kick before twisting away to avoid the air blade she kicked out with her other leg. A punch was sent towards his face, but he managed to deflect it away with a slap, leaping backwards away from her to avoid the follow-up kick she had sent. You aren't fighting back? Olivia asked with a raised eyebrow. You think I'll forgive you just like that? Luffy kept his mouth shut. She kicked another air blade at him, but Luffy sidestepped it deftly, his eyes still locked on her. You know that if you don't fight me, that criminal girl will just get further and further away, right? Why are you doing this? Olivia raised her eyebrow. Is it not obvious? You think I trained so hard for all these years was for fun? No, it was so that I could take you on with my own strength. So fight me or I'll never forgive you. She aimed a kick at his abdomen, but this time Luffy kicked back at her, pushing her away. He punched towards her head, the girl raising an arm to block it by tensing her body with Tekai. She kicked out her leg from below, sending an air blade at his legs. Luffy somersaulted backwards into the air, kicking out 2 air blades before he landed back on the ground. Olivia leapt over the blades before kicking the air behind her to propel herself towards Luffy, her right index finger stabbing towards his chest. Luffy backhanded the wrist away before stabbing his own Sharingan towards her, the girl catching his wrist before it could reach her. Olivia kicked her left leg at his side while still holding on to his wrist, preventing him from retreating. Kami-e. Luffy's body slackened as he allowed the kick to push him away instead of hitting him, using Olivia's grip on his wrist as leverage to flip into the air. The girl released his wrist and retreated before the kick that Luffy sent towards her head could connect. Luffy clenched his fist before punching towards the girl, Olivia meeting his punch with her own. The female assassin kicked her leg towards Luffy, aiming to send out another Rankyaku, but Luffy's leg shot out to intercept her, kicking her leg away to send her Rankyaku flying off to the side. The same leg was kicked forward into her abdomen, Olivia barely receiving it in time with her Tekai before being sent skidding back from him. Tobu Sharingan. Olivia flicked her finger at Luffy, sending the compressed air bullet towards him. Luffy mimicked the same action with his wrist, Sharingan Rankyaku. Luffy's own version of the air bullet cut Olivia's in two, the female assassin tilting her head to avoid the projectile as it slashed past her face, taking some strands of hair with it. While the Tobu Sharingan was a bullet-shaped projectile that focused more on piercing power, Luffy's Sharingan Rankyaku was a blade-shaped projectile compressed to a bullet size that focused on cutting power. The two of them paused in their attacks at the same time, staring down at each other. Ha! I see you're not using your devil fruit powers at all, senpai. Olivia glanced towards the storm hanging above the island. Might I ask why? Luffy grimaced before leaping forward to kick at her head. I don't need it to win a fight. Olivia raised her arm to block the kick with Tekai before stabbing her other hand forward at him. Luffy kicked the air to dodge the Sharingan, his hands wrapping around the slender girl's arms before throwing her forward. Olivia somersaulted in the air, using Jeppo to stabilize herself to land at the ground. Without hesitation, she twisted on a foot to kick her other leg backwards, just in time to stop the kick that had been aimed at her head. The girl grinned at her ex-mentor while holding that position. So when are you going to start fighting me seriously? Luffy bit his lips in silence. Olivia jumped back and kicked her leg out at him, watching with mild interest as her airblade was deflected away by Luffy's own airblade. You've gone soft, Luffy-senpai. Olivia remarked. So soft now, in fact. That emotionless mode of yours only knocked out all the guards on your way here, you avoided killing any of them. I learned to control it to some extent. After what happened with you. Luffy gritted his teeth. Oh? Should I feel flattered then? But where has that monster gone then? That killing machine? The most feared killer in CP9? I killed him 2 years ago, Luffy declared through gritted teeth. Olivia smiled mockingly at those words. Ah. What a shame then, I had hoped to be the one that killed him instead. Seems like you beat me to it. She straightened herself before raising both her fists in the secret pose of the Rokushiki style. I won't make the same mistake that I had made in the past. Let's end this. Luffy furrowed his brows but lifted his fists in the same pose. She grinned when she saw her ex-mentor slip into the stance. I already learnt it, you know? Luffy raised an eyebrow at her before noticing her arms had a black sheen on them. The other agents didn't care much about hockey training, but I did. You were the one who taught me after all. Let's see if I am good enough to graduate, shall we, senpai? For the first time in the fight, Luffy let a proud smile crawl on his lips. Alright, Oli. I'll be going seriously now. I wouldn't have it any other way. Come at me. Senpai. The two of them lunged towards each other. Freestyle armament, Rokugan. The resulting shockwave shook the entire bridge and both buildings it connected. The bridge creaked and groaned as some parts of it broke and fell into the chasm below, never to be seen again. The walls behind both assassins were shattered as the shockwaves passed through them. Anyone else that had been in the path of the shockwave behind them were thrown off their feet and sent flying. The air was silent as the two assassins held their stance, their fists centimeters away from the others. A full minute passed before Olivia coughed out blood, falling backwards onto the ground on her back. Luffy inhaled deeply before exhaling, lowering his trembling arms to his sides. It was a good hit, Luffy announced. A grin spread across Olivia's face. That's Good too. Here. Shishishi. You trained really hard, Oli. Ha! Even with all that. This was my 499th loss to you. Luffy raised an eyebrow. You still remember that? Olivia giggled before coughing. Of course. I told you I still haven't forgiven you. You never visited once, after all these years. Luffy tilted his head at her. Eh? That was what you were angry about? Well, duh. Olivia pouted. You left your poor junior all alone here with these idiots. Least you could do after your transfer was to come back at least once, you know? What did you think I was angry about? Luffy scratched his head. Maybe about the fact I almost killed you and left you for dead? Olivia raised an eyebrow, genuine confusion on her face. Why would I be angry about something that wasn't even your fault? I thought you were training so hard so you can take revenge on me or something. Olivia stared at him at wide eyes before bursting into laughter. Her laughter was cut short as she coughed painfully the next moment, but a grin still remained plastered on her face. Ha! Ha! Oh! I almost forgot how dense you were. Ah, but you're already engaged. So maybe you're not that dense after all. No, I trained hard because there was something I wanted to do. I didn't want to stay in your shadow forever. Luffy looked at the overcast sky before looking at the ground. But my shadow is not anywhere near you? Olivia sighed. Forget it. I still can't believe you didn't even come back once. But I did. I came after your funeral. That doesn't count. I meant to visit me. Not my grave. But I didn't even know. No one told me anything. Still your fault. You should have known some way or another. Stupid Luffy. Luffy looked at the girl incredulously. He was sure she was just throwing a tantrum for no reason now. Well, you got me here. So I guess you'll be going to save that Robin girl then. Olivia glanced at him. Luffy only nodded. Then I'll probably lose my job. Purple Hair is going to put the blame on us. Probably labeling us as the ones going rogue that caused this incident. Then the old farts will cover this up and will be disposed of somehow. Predictable. Luffy frowned. I'll take you in then. Olivia shook her head. I already have things planned for myself. Maybe I'll pay your fiancé a visit and ask for refuge in the meantime. Shishishi. I'll help you put in a good word for you. She's a nice person. He. Do your junior one more favor, would you, senpai? Sure thing. Luffy agreed immediately without hesitation. Help me punch Panda Freak in the face for me. Olivia muttered before finally blacking out. Luffy grinned at her request, reaching down to pull her arm over his shoulder. I had planned to do that from the start. The teacher carried his student across the bridge, setting her down against the wall carefully before continuing onwards, his eyes clearer than ever before. That wraps up this part of What If Luffy Became a Marine. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Just a quick reminder, this story, What If There Was a Different Luffy, is going on hold soon as we have almost caught up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be here on the channel. I'm currently considering these 3 fanfics. What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Reborn as Gohan in future timeline? Let me know which one you'd like to see next by voting in the poll. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.